And good evening. Today is December 3rd. Right now it is 7:32, and I'm calling to order this evening's meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. For the benefit of those who have not participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission, our procedures are as follows. The Secretary will read the legal notice of the meeting as published in local newspapers. The applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. First, there will be clarifying questions from the Commissioners, then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Next, we'll ask those who want to support the application to come forward. Second, we'll ask those who are opposing the application to come forward. As this is a public meeting, it must be recorded. It will be necessary for speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and address before addressing the Commission. The applicant will then be free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing, the regular meeting, during which the Commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the Commission, has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated tonight are the following members of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. We have Tom Cost, I'm Rich Meyer, we have Richard Wallace, Josh Hirschman, Ray Bauer, George Underhill, Walter Corbiere, Phil Johnson, and Frank DeAndrea, George Crowell. We have a full team tonight. Katie is taking the notes, and Shannon Gale is running the cameras for us. Mr. Secretary, will you read the notice, please?
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on December 3rd, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, Monunketuck Room, 2nd floor, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. Number 1, Town of Guilford, Chaffinch Island Road, map 23, zone MR1, R6. Special permit and coastal area management site plan to reconstruct approximately 650 feet of Chaffinch Island Road, section 273-91. Number 2, Town of Guilford, Leeds Island Marsh, Shell Beach Road, map 13, lot 11, zone R5. Special permit and coastal area management plan, replace Leeds Island Tide Gate under Shell Beach Road, section 273-91. Number 3, Pileggi, Cheryl, 133 Shell Beach Road, map 13, lot 2, zone R5. Coastal area management site plan, raise house to FEMA requirements, install 2 1,500-gallon underground water tanks, section 273-91. Number 4, Weissman, Mara, 117 Andrews Road, map 12, lot 76B, zone R5. Coastal area management site plan, demolition of house, section 273-91. Number 5, Guilford Agricultural Society, 111 Lovers Lane, map 40, lot 138, zone R3. Special permit modification of original special permit approved May 17, 1989 to allow permanent use of barn and pavilion, Article 10. Number 6, Guilford Housing Authority, 41 Boston Terrace, map 41, lot 91, zone R3. Special permit and site plan location of dumpsters, section 273-13. Number 7, amendment to section 273-21, commercial design, CD district, to eliminate provision allowing bulk storage and sale of propane on certain parcels of land. Number 8, Braun, David and Janine, 5-7, Rock Lane, map 10, lot 70, zone R2. Coastal area management site plan, reconstruction of existing dwellings, new driveway and patio, section 273-91. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 12th day of November 2014, Richard Meyer, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All right, can I get a motion to open, we're going to open a table, the Guilford Agricultural Society?
So moved.
Separate motions.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Yeah, so motion to open it. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to table.
The applicant has requested continuation to January 7th.
Okay.
So was that the applicant's request?
Yes.
That's correct. Fine.
So we have a second?
Yes, I second.
All right, all those in favor? Yeah, all right, fine. All right, can I get a motion to close then?
Yes.
No, that's
Yeah.
table, what?
Yeah. You want to indicate who's seated tonight? Because you got more than 7 people here.
Oh, that's right, we have more than 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have all of our regular members sitting, and our applicants are participating in conversation, but you can't vote for things right now. Okay. All right, can I get a motion to open Town of Guilford, Leeds Island Marsh, Shell
That
Beach Road?
application's been withdrawn.
Okay, moving quick. How about Town of Guilford, Chaffinch Island, map 23, zone
Here.
Yeah, there you go. Can I get a
Move to
motion?
Open.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Just one, let's put it on board that I am on the Public Works Commission also.
Right, Richard Wallace has offered that he is on the Public Works Commission. I don't see any conflict of interest that I've asked him to stay on. Just want to make sure everyone is aware that he offered to recuse, but I don't see it's necessary at all. Sir?
Thank you, sir. Application before you tonight for Chaffinch Island Road addresses a long-standing problem we've had, I'm sure Bergen North is here to attest to that, of flooding over this road. The elevation of the low section of Chaffinch Island Road, let me go in here. On the right side of this drawing is the Chaffinch Island Park. There's the marina here, then you come across, and then there's a second marina. There's two marinas, but this is a low section before you get to Chaffinch Island Park. The elevation of the road at that point is below, actually, the coastal jurisdiction line, elevation 4 of the, that's under the jurisdiction of the DEEP. It floods frequently. It's a result of, I would think, subsidence and just that rising water level that we have in Long Island Sound. It's really become very much a troublesome flooding area, and we've been working on this project in terms of developing not only this one, but some of the other coastal roads, and I think last year you heard our application for the raising of Old Quarry Road. This is a particularly bad road in that it's, as I said, it's below the high tide line. Part of our application, and we went through a FEMA application for funding. We've actually acquired a grant through FEMA for raising this road. It was we were granted an award of $229,000 towards the reconstruction of this road. That application, which we submitted to FEMA, went through the full environmental review of FEMA and the EPA, and they gave us a clean bill of health on this, and seeing that it's a necessary improvement that's there for public safety. What we will entail is we'll raise the road at the low points. There's there's a twin 30-inch pipes that go under the road about midway between the two driveways to the two marinas on the way to the park. We have twin 30-inch pipes. We will replace those, and then we will raise the elevation of that road approximately 4 to 4.5 feet. We have to raise it to elevation 8 on the national datum, the 1988 datum. That means we will bring it up substantially higher than any high tide elevations and flood elevations. We originally intended to raise it just to elevation 7, which we felt was sufficient, a little bit, 2.5 foot rise. But through the deliberations and considerations with FEMA, they asked us to raise an additional foot, which will bring it up to elevation 8. Because that basically is a floodplain area, we don't have to have any grade on the road. It's going to be dead level, going right from the park entrance across, and to meet the grade on Chaffinch Island Road, just west of the entrance to what used to be Bayberry Marina. It's a pretty compact project, 650 feet. It will involve, as I said, consideration of building up the stone revetments on both sides which support the road. If you've been down to Old Quarry, you'll see that that's the way we did it down there. We basically created an envelope with big, large rock, mostly from the Stony Creek Quarry. We bought that at a very good price and raised that up, and then we're able to elevate the road in between. It's a pretty straightforward project. We just completed the one in, as I said, in Oak Quarry, and the people down there and the residents are very happy with the construction. We've met, I think, all the environmental considerations, and we will install silt fence and sedimentation and erosion control as part of the project. We're going to have to work with the tides as we finish the project. Down at Old Quarry, they asked us as part of the DEP application and approval to cover the rock with topsoil and to promote the growth of tidal wetland grasses. In this case, we haven't received that permit yet, and I would suggest that because we don't have that condition now, where there's tidal grasses rising up to the elevation of the roadway, that we would ask for their indulgence here, not doing that. We just have the large boulders, and you know, with the Stony Creek Quarry, that pink granite, it's going to be just as attractive as you go into the park with that kind of treatment. But you know, we will comply if that's their suggestion. They want that. That's not an issue for us. The big issue for us is the elevation of the road, and it's a straightforward approach to provide public safety to the residents of the area and to the users of the park. Dave North started this about 3 years ago, coming down and asking us about this, and this is something, because of the time lag between when you identify a problem and when you get the money to do it. It's taken this long, but it has now risen to the point we would like to do that this project this summer, maybe even in early spring if the weather works for us, because it's a project that needs to be done. So that's about it in a nutshell.
Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Chairman, I have 3 letters from, 2 from John Goucher, who's an environmental analyst 3 for the Office of Long Island Sound Program at the DEEP on 79 Elm Street in Hartford. Yes. The first letter is addressed to Kevin McGee, our environmental planner here in town. Kevin, from our perspective, I know that we will be looking closely at the details of the plan during the permitting process for work to fill in tidal wetlands and below the CJL. However, for the local coastal site plan review process, the plans should meet the minimum requirements of Section 228-105, which includes showing the spatial relationship of all coastal resources on and contiguous to the proposed work. For example, the Commission should understand where and how many square feet of tidal wetlands must be filled or otherwise impacted to complete the project. Also, the proposed restoration could be explained in detail to show the Commission how the proposed impacts to tidal wetlands are to be mitigated. Let me know if you would like to discuss the project. That's from John Goucher, who seems to have been promoted to Environmental Analyst 3.
Congratulations, Dan.
Because he used to always write to us as an Environmental Analyst 2, right?
Or demoted. It could be both ways.
Yeah, I don't know. Kevin McGee wrote back to him saying, "Hi John, I talked with Jim Portley, town engineer, and we will be providing to the Commission a copy of the application submitted to Krista Romero for this work, which should provide additional information regarding the impacts to the adjacent tidal marsh and the mitigation measures. Also, the agenda item before this application is the tide gate at Leeds Island Marsh. So they will be hearing about the mitigation measures prior to this application." Kevin W. McGee, Town of Guilford. To which John Goucher responded, "Kevin, thanks, that sounds good. Since the important work from a coastal management perspective will be covered by the permit, we have no comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need any additional information." That's once again John Goucher, Environmental Analyst 3.
There was a letter here from Kevin McGee, environmental planner. Yes, I will. It's to the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, dated December 1, 2014, regarding the Chaffinch Island Road. The Town of Guilford Engineering Department is proposing to reconstruct the end of Chaffinch Island Road prior to the entrance of Chaffinch Island Park, 650 feet long with 20-foot wide pavement, by elevating the road approximately 3 feet to alleviate flooding issues. The side slopes to support the raised road will cause the filling of approximately 8,500 square feet of tidal wetlands. The work will also involve the replacement of 2 30-inch culverts and headwalls. The engineering department has included in the Part 2A of the application a description of the construction sequence and has provided plans for erosion and sedimentation control measures that are designed to protect the adjacent coastal resources from additional harm. The filling of the tidal wetlands adjacent to the road will cause an adverse impact to the approximately 10-foot wide sections of tidal wetlands on each side of the road. In order to mitigate the damage to the tidal wetlands, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, CTDEP, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers require, as part of the permitting process, that the Town of Guilford conduct a wetlands mitigation project. The town is currently working with CTDEEP on a mitigation project to restore the 40-acre Lease Island tidal marsh by installing a new tide gate on Shell Beach Road. A coastal area management application for this project has been submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and a structures, dredge, and fill and tidal wetlands permit application has been filed with the CTDEEP. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, the Town of Guilford Enforcement Officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles shall be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until all site work has been completed. Due to the long duration of the project, the Town of Guilford Engineering Department shall inspect the erosion control measures weekly and after rainfall events of greater than 1 inch. A written inspection log shall be maintained, and any damage erosion control measures need to be repaired within 24 hours of being noticed. A natural diversity database state-listed service species review request was submitted to CTDEEP. Nielsen Barbaros, botanist ecologist with the CTDEP, noted that eastern prickly pear, a plant of state special concern, was located on both sides of the road. At the western extent of the project, the map attached on the DEP letter shows state species of concern located along the entrance of Chaffinch Island Park. No work shall be conducted or equipment shall be stored with the area of special concern. With this area of special concern. And that's that.
Wow, that's great.
Yes, thank you.
So the prickly pear is of concern. Any, guys, we have questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Good, go with it, brother.
Simple. Did you say you're going to leave the pipes that are there, or you're going to replace
I'm
them?
going to replace them.
Okay, and they'll be the same size?
Yes. They are basically equalizer pipes. They're not intended to carry runoff flow from any direction. They equalize the water pressure on both sides of the road. You have basically flooding coming both from the East River and then the marsh.
Okay.
So they're just equalization pipes.
The two roads that go off of this road, that they're both actively used now?
Yes.
So the fact that you're raising the road there will have no effect on their access. The roads will be, that elevation will remain the same as it is now?
The elevation will be raised at this point. We will blend back into it. We'll have to, and I talked to the gentleman, Mr. Stevens, down here this morning. He had a question about that. We will work with you to blend those driveways down at a reasonable grade that you will accept. I'm sure David will work with us too, to grade this driveway down so that the access will be maintained during the whole process. At that point, which is elevation station 6, we're raising it about 1.5 feet, so we would take that road back to the existing grade.
Now, just one other quick question. In Kevin's letter, he says that the road is going to be raised approximately 3 feet to elevate flood issues. Did you say that you're going to raise it more than that?
It's roughly about, elevation is about 3.5 feet. It's,
Okay.
We had to raise that as a request of FEMA as part of their review process. The road is a little bit like this.
So the road, though, will you have to shut the road down?
No, just as we did with Oak Quarry, we maintained access at all times.
Okay.
So how did you arrive at the diameter of the two pipes?
They are existing pipes. They're concrete. Because they're equalizer pipes, and there was no way to go through a hydraulic analysis or hydrological analysis. We just took what was there. We've never had issues with it. Usually when you have pipes that are undersized, you have water building up on one side and cascading on the road. That's where you have issues. In this case, the water just rises on both sides, and it just, for whatever reason they were put in years ago, I don't even know what purpose they serve, to be honest, but rather than disrupt the equilibrium that's there right now, we're just going to replace them with same size pipes.
What is the existing width of this road?
18 feet.
Did I understand it's going to go to 28? Which is
20, looks like it's 20 foot.
20-foot width, and that's adequate?
You know, it's in such a low-volume road, and, you know, there's very clear sight lines on
I'm
the...
concerned about bad weather, snow plows, that sort of thing, passing cars. Is it-
As I say, it's just a low-volume road. I think it's adequate for its use. And the more width you have, the further we have to go out into the salt marsh to get footing for the roadway, and then have the more environmental impacts. And we thought that if we kept the same width, there would be less objection from the environmental perspective.
Just with respect to impact for access to the island, to Chaffinch Island, will most of the work on the road be during the week, on the weekends? How is that prescribed?
We do, the town's public works department does this work ourselves. So we work Monday through Friday. There won't be any interruptions. For weekend use, the road will be kept open at all times. What we will do is build the revetments on both sides to provide the envelope in which we will raise the elevation of the road. And then every night we will leave that road level. We'll just bring it up in lifts so that, you know, 6 inches at a time, so it's at the proper elevation.
Is that similar to the way it was done on Old Quarry?
Yes. Yeah, there may be one day, because of the length of Old Quarry, we might have one side higher than the other on one given night, but we identified that area with barrel. But that was a 3/4.
Right.
Basically,
I'm just curious whether or not more is being done on the weekends or during the weeks.
No, it's a Monday through Friday project. Because of the length of that project, we did work some weekends, but it had nothing to do with anything other than trying to get that project done, because we hadn't intended to replace the Vineyard Point Road Bridge this summer, but concerns raised by the Connecticut DOT on the structural rating of the old bridge pushed that project ahead by a year. So instead of just focusing on Old Quarry, we also worked on replacing the old concrete bridge on Vineyard Point. So to get both projects done efficiently, we had to extend our work schedule to 6 days.
In Kevin's letter, he listed a bunch of what would be sort of conditions,
Yeah.
talking about the soil stockpiles and contained by silt fence, soil erosion and sedimentation controls, so we maintain and control all work until site work has been completed. Are those all conditions you're okay with?
Yes, yeah, these are standard kind of conditions that we work under. We did the same. We had the same kind of conditions at Old Quarry.
And then, in regards to the prickly pear, are you familiar at all with
Personally?
that? Yeah.
No.
So, is there a picture?
But it's identified on a map that
Yes,
was provided by,
I'm just concerned.
and
I think Katie has pictures of it.
Are there, no, did they submit? I just don't know if Kevin would submit something.
yeah, we have a map that was prepared by the gentleman who made a comment about this. And we, you know, it's easy enough to segregate from our activity.
Yeah.
Except the West End project.
Ray?
Yeah, no questions.
Rich?
I have to drill on Old Quarry, so.
Okay. I only have one question. It's really just so I can get educated a little bit. You're going to put these stone revetments up on the site. You're going to fill the middle with some sort of felt.
What we did is we put the larger stone, and then we used it's kind of a riprap stone to kind of lock them all together. We use the same material from basically the Stony Creek Quarry because it was so close to the wall.
Yeah.
But it's a riprap size material, 4 to 6 inches. It kind of locks the bigger stones in place.
So we never ever have to worry about anything getting placed there that might have something bad in it. This is all from a local, clean, nice, wonderful, pristine place.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. Any other questions? How about questions from the audience?
Well, I've got a question. I've got a driveway right next to Dave's, and they appear to put boulders in front of it.
You ever tried to raise Davis?
Yeah, right there next to it. That's mine.
Collinger?
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to note it, of course.
You didn't want the boulders?
Seems like a good time to
People are
talk
not
about it.
cooperating.
Now's a good time.
I apologize. That was not intentional.
Sure.
Is that actually used? I mean,
Sure.
I didn't think of it. I apologize. Well, this will be not an issue.
Okay. More questions?
Could you identify yourself, sir?
Mark Hollenberg.
Okay, good.
So you're not going to block any residents' driveways?
Not intentional.
By accident, though. That happens.
And we'll remediate right away.
All right. So anyone else have questions? Or comments? Anything? All done? Okay. Can I get a motion to close this?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Okay, so that brings us to Guilford Housing Authority? Is that right? In the right spot? Guilford Housing Authority, 41 Boston Terrace, map 41, lot 91. Zone R3, special permanent site plan location of dumpsters, 27313. Request to waive fee.
Good evening. Jeffrey Beatty for the applicant, Guilford Housing Authority, with me, Angela Ross, Guilford Housing Authority. It's our special permit application, site plan application for 2 dumpsters at the facility on Boston Street. Boston Terrace, I'm sorry, off of Boston Street. Mr. Powell's getting out the application. There's a survey in there that shows the location of the 2 dumpsters. The special permit application, we believe, complies with the requirements of the zoning regulations. Show. This is the location of the dumpsters. One is right here, and then another one right here. So there's one dump, a 6-yarder here, and a 2-yarder right there. The complex has been there for a number of years, as I'm sure most of you are aware. There's one dumpster right here, 2-yarder, 6-yarder right there. The dumpsters are used by the residents at the Guilford Commons the Boston Terrace facility for trash, and there's one dumpster here and the other dumpster right there.
The entrance from Boston Post Road is
this way here.
Boston Street.
Yeah, and this one here is used by the majority of the residents, and this one here, the 2-yarder, is used by, we have, these units here are strictly handicapped, so this one here is used mainly by our most physically handicapped residents.
But these dumpsters are quite far off the road.
Yes.
I mean, off of Boston Street.
They're the rear of the property.
Couldn't even find them.
The residents can, but yes.
Right.
That's important.
And just so this end of the table understands what we're talking about. These are the handicapped, the units that are occupied mainly by handicapped residents. They use this dumpster, and then the other residents living in these units use this dumpster here. And so we've got some photos of the dumpsters. They're the typical dumpsters you see at Mr. Brown.
Those are the small ones. That's the small one.
This is the smaller 2-yard dumpster. There again. This is another view of the 2-yard dumpster.
It's a nice dumpster.
And then it's in the parking lot where they park the cars next to it. Nothing really unusual given the number of housing units that are at the facility. So,
You want to submit that for?
yes, please, both of them. So, we also have a petition signed by a number of the residents at the Housing Authority property asking that stating that they have an interest in the placement of the dumpsters at the current location, for the benefit of the disabled residents in particular. They have the need for 2 dumpsters, with a smaller one closer to the specified handicapped apartments at Boston Terrace. We feel it's in order at this time. The present placement of the 2-yard dumpster also keeps the circle free for fire and ambulance movement in an emergency situation. And so they're asking that the dumpsters remain at their present location.
Why isn't this an agent approval? Isn't this some, that we don't have any equivalent to an authorized agent approval for something of this size? Yeah, but we don't have anything like that for the gazebo, or we just have to do these as well? Okay.
Can I ask you?
Do you want these for the record?
Yeah, those are for the record.
Could I have a little history here? Are the dumpsters there now?
Yes.
Those pictures that are there now?
Yes.
So you're planning to add to the dumpsters?
No,
that are there?
it's to keep the dumpsters that are there. It's in response to complaints from the neighbors.
So the dumpsters have been there right along, but you're just asking now for permission to have them there?
In response to complaints from the neighbors, it was suggested that we come before this commission to get approval to keep the dumpsters in that location.
Well, where would the trash be made? Where would the trash go if it weren't for the dumpsters?
They'd have to locate the dumpsters at some other location on site.
We don't have any, we're asked really to put them because they have to be picked up. And we had trash cans many years ago, but those were a hazard because they got overfilled and we had garbage all over the ground all the time, and we had big issues with that. But the dumpsters have not caused any issue for us. We have them at all three of our sites. And we have abutting neighbors in all three of our sites.
Jeff, just I think probably what happens in the original site plans and any of the site plans since the original never been shown on there, so you're just trying to bring it into compliance.
Exactly.
What is and what wasn't.
Exactly. I don't think that at the time that the original application was submitted, they really had planned on or identified where the dumpsters were going to go. And I think over the course of years and the use, they found an optimal location, at least from the
So the approved
housing
site,
authority's
if this
perspective.
gets approved, the approved site plan will be in sync with what's actually there.
Exactly.
And Dennis Johnson did come and inspect those too.
I believe there's a memo in the file showing that in response to the complaint, a member of the, or someone from the health department went out, inspected the property, found that there was one that was partially open, notified the authority, and then made multiple visits to the property in the subsequent weeks, indicating that everything was in good order and well maintained.
That was the only complaint you've ever received, never been any
Ever, in
complaints about noise?
all three places, ever, and we have,
From the
yeah.
neighbors. Thank you.
Josh, do you want to read this into the record, or Rich, you want to put someone into it?
All right. This is to the Guilford Housing Authority from Dennis Johnson on October 23rd, 2014. Subject is a dumpster complaint investigation. On 8/20/2014, a complaint was filed with the Health Department by Matt and Irene Kabuski regarding the condition of the waste dumpsters located along the property line between Kabuski and the GHA property. An inspection of the site by environmental sanitarian John Saviniak on 8/27/2014 revealed two dumpsters located approximately 50 feet apart. One dumpster had a closed lid and the other was partially open. A discarded mattress, plastic lawn furniture, and styrofoam box were located on the ground outside the smaller dumpster. A written report dated 9/2/1 completed by John noted that the condition of the dumpsters constituted a public health nuisance in that the dumpsters were not covered properly. On September 9, 2014, a reinspection of the dumpsters by Dennis Johnson revealed that all dumpsters were covered and no odor of garbage was present. Additional inspections on September 10th, 11th, 12th, and 15th revealed the dumpsters were covered, well maintained, and did not present a health code violation. And it looks like there's another letter, I believe, on the same matter. Yep, this is to Joseph Mazza, First Selectman, dated October 24th, 2014. Dear Selectman Mazza, on behalf of the Guilford Housing Authority, I am requesting that the site plan fee and special permit fee be waived. This concerns our application in regards to the placement of the dumpsters at our Boston Terrace property. Also enclosed is notification as Calvin Leeds School abuts our Boston Terrace property. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. 203-453-4760. I look forward to hearing from you concerning the fees. Sincerely, Angela Ross, Executive Director.
Thanks, Josh.
No problem.
I'd also like to enter the letters sent to the neighbors along with the certificates of mailing from the Housing Authority.
Thanks, Councilor. For that, Tim.
And neglected to, there's one other petition that was signed by other residents of the association that I'd like to add to the others that were signed.
Someone's got to read that. Get the whole treatment going.
You want me to read it in?
Well, just the...
All right, the top part. This is, it looks like a petition dated November 25th, 2014. It's regarding dumpsters at Boston Terrace. We, the underside, are residents of Boston Terrace and have an interest in the placement of the dumpsters at Boston Terrace. For the benefit of the disabled residents in particular, the need for 2 dumpsters with the smaller one closest to the specified handicap apartments at Boston Terrace is in order at this time. The present placement of the 2 dumpsters also keeps the circle free for fire and ambulance movements in an emergency situation. We, the undersigned, wish the dumpster and placement of the dumpsters to so remain. I believe there's probably about, would you say 35 signatures in
I
total?
believe so with the
Yeah, with the
yes.
total, okay.
That's great. Thanks. So I'm sure, you have anything else, Councilor?
The only thing I'd add is that in looking at the criteria for a special permit, the special permit criteria and the regulations, we believe that the location, the type, character, and size of the dumpsters and use as proposed is in harmony with and conforms with the appropriate and orderly development of the town. The nature and location of the dumpsters is such that there's adequate access for fire protection purposes. It's on the paved portion of the road out of the way so that vehicular traffic can get in and out unimpeded. And if need be, fire access to the site is also similarly unimpeded. The proposed streets serving the use are adequate to carry prospective traffic and maintenance of the dumpsters. The lot on which they're being used is of sufficient size and dimensions to permit and conduct the use of the dumpsters on the site and maintenance of the site. And the dumpsters are located, you'll note, at the edge of the paved area. This is important that they remain on the paved area for the handicapped residents to allow them to access. If they're on elevated areas, it would become more difficult for those residents to access the dumpsters and then use them, which would result in trash accumulating, which is something that none of us want to have happen. The architectural design of the dumpsters is not unique and not in conflict with the architectural design of any dumpsters throughout town. The property is not located in the historic district. There's no restaurant, drive-through services offered at the site. Doesn't contain a movie theater, playhouse, nightclub, or adult entertainment establishment. There's no dog care facility on the site. And the activity we're proposing does not involve a regulated activity relating to inland wetlands. There are impervious surfaces that have been in existence for well over 3 years and satisfy the minimum setback requirements or have been in existence long enough to be considered illegal non-conforming uses. The applicant, as you see from the photographs, has attempted to landscape and provide privacy in order to mitigate adverse impacts on its adjacent residential neighbors. So for all of those reasons, we believe the special permit ought to be approved. And similarly, the site plan application, which was submitted in conjunction with the special permit application, should be approved as the proposed use complies with the zoning regulations and serves the elderly and handicapped residents of the property by providing reasonable access to the dumpsters to allow for the proper disposal of their trash. The Housing Authority maintains the dumpsters and surrounding areas properly, as noted in the memorandum from Health Director Dennis Johnson, and so we believe that the location and use of the dumpsters where they're presently located complies with the Guilford zoning regulations, and that the special permit and site plan application should be approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions they might have.
I had a couple questions. Sure. So, you believe a special permit is required to have these dumpsters here?
We were told, we were advised, that my client was advised that the special permit was...
Well, what's your opinion? Do you think that a special permit is required to have those dumpsters where they're currently located?
I'm not sure that it is, but we just wanted to be in compliance with the requests that were made from town staff to get the application.
Yeah. The overall use, the Housing Authority project is a special permit use. So this is part of that special permit use in site plan. I think that's why Reggie determined that a modification of the original approval to add these facilities was a modification to the special permit.
Wow. And then I had, sort of two unrelated questions, but more related to the fee waiver, which I personally am not opposed to at all, but I do have a couple of follow-up questions for you. I'm assuming it's a not-for-profit, correct? Yes. And I'm assuming you also have an operating budget?
Yeah.
And so there is something going to pay certain fees throughout the year, correct? That aren't, that aren't necessarily related to the charity that you provide?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, what is the fee?
Pardon me?
What kind of a fee is it? How much is it?
There's an application fee that gets submitted to the...
Okay, but how much is it? Dollar-wise?
Yeah, I think it's 100. I think it's 100. Yeah, it's 100 or 150.
This is it.
How long has the dumpster already been in this location?
The big dumpster has been there for months. 15 years, I think, but the small 2-yard dumpster closest to the neighbor has been there a year, or a bit less than a year. Yeah, that was because we built the 9 handicap units.
Gotcha. I was going to ask that same question. Was this related because of new construction?
Complaint is the big dumpster. The complaint mostly just relates to the big dumpster. To the small one.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question? Is some of this related to the service being provided by the hauler? Interruption in service or anything like that? Because I've experienced problems with this hauler.
No. Every once in a while, somebody will, you can't help it, somebody throws something out there, and then we have to make a call, and it might take him a couple days to get there. But we just asked him to upgrade, our dumpsters. We go back and forth, but we're okay.
No, I'd just like to hear from the public on this.
Walter? Bill? Frank? Okay. Would any of our guests have any questions?
I'm the neighbor.
Okay.
Can I speak now, or should I wait till everybody else speaks?
Well, why don't you go ahead and speak? Could you just identify yourself, please?
Yes. I'm going to read some things. I'll have this for you. My name is Irene Kavitsky, and I'm the neighbor that's adjacent to the property. I'm speaking for myself and my husband, Matt Kavitsky. And I'm going to read this because I would get too nervous if I don't. When we were asked to approve the plans for Guilford Housing Authority Boston Terrace expansion on June 2nd, 2010, we assumed that the plans we were shown was a complete representation. The plans were incomplete regarding the new location for picking up the trash. The plans did not reveal that several parking spaces, only 35 feet from our kitchen windows, would be a garbage collection area. If we had known that, we would have discussed that plan at the original hearing. That omission deprived us of any voice in protecting our property value, as the use of the parking spaces was changed by Guilford Housing Authority after everything was built. We read in the site planning considerations section of the town's guidance document for low-impact development best management practices of 3/11/2010 that Planning and Zoning Commission is concerned about the development that will, quote, stabilize and/or increase property values in Guilford. However, repurposing parking spaces 35 feet from our kitchen and dining room and family room windows to become the permanent 2-yard dumpster trash pickup location definitely affects the property value of our house. We learned just how important that distance is on August 15th, an otherwise pleasant day. A strong smell of garbage greeted us that day, which we found to be coming from the Boston Terrace 2-yard dumpster just 35 feet away. Since then, we have seen old furniture, a discarded mattress, a sofa, and other items residents would like to dispose of. However, they do get picked up after about 2 weeks. We called Schweitzer that day to tell them that they left garbage that smelled, and they put the responsibility back on GHA, Guilford Housing Authority. We called the Public Health Department, John Siviak. came to investigate our complaint. When an official report was written, Dennis Johnson, the town's health officer, told us that the garbage collection areas sometimes smell and can attract vermin. It comes with the territory. Since it affects us directly, we don't agree to this kind of default plan. Dennis Johnson, in his report, which is longer than what you read, I have it here, in his report dated September 23rd, identified other locations that moved the garbage collection nearer to the disabled residents, making it more convenient for disabled resident units. And it would be at least 60 feet buffer from our windows. These alternatives were declined by the director of Guilford Housing Authority. As the construction and cleanup was slowly finishing, we kept looking for signs that the trash pickup location would be close to the new units. That's what we assumed. We hesitated to ask Guilford Housing Authority. However, it came up now because of the horrendous smell, and trying to resolve the issue, we finally found out where Guilford Housing Authority assigned the permanent trash location. Unfortunately for us, it was 35 feet from our windows. Guilford Housing Authority choice of repurposing parking spaces so close to our home affects us seriously. Garbage collection is not the same as parked cars. I believe that if GHA had thought the problem through during the design with the architects, I am sure the issues could have been solved then by bringing the garbage collection area closer to the handicapped tenants in these new beautiful units in a thoughtful way. We appreciate the fair process of public hearings by the P&Z Commission so that when there are omissions on the original plans, the issues can be rediscussed by all parties. Please help us to resolve this issue by removing the 2-yard dumpster from our property line adjacent to our kitchen and dining room windows, and Dennis Johnson's suggestions seem to be a good solution. We have attachments of photos in Dennis Johnson's report for our records. And this is, and I only have 5 copies of these. This is my statement. And these are this is a picture I took today. And this is one possible proposal. To the other end, instead of right there by our window, that would be about a little more than 60 feet. And here's the other proposal that Dennis had, which is in this, yes, they mentioned that there would be a little bit lift up and might be harder for the resident, but it certainly would be closer to these residents rather than walking down. And this is what it was on August 15th when I tried to figure out that smell. The Schweitzer said, well, that's the problem of GHA. And here's a picture of, and this is a picture of a couch that was there for a few days or more. And this was John Stiviak's pictures when he came out in August. And this is John's report. And John's report, he's the health person, said, recommendations. Remove the dumpster away from the property line. 2, substitute a more environmentally continued dumpster, smaller, with tight lids to prevent inoculation or infiltration of rainwater. And 3, approval of relocated dumpster to be coordinated with Town of Guilford Health Department. And that was, and this is Dennis's report, which is, you stopped over there and it goes further.
That's all that I had.
Oh, okay. Well, there was more. And in here, he gives the 3 recommendations.
I think I should read them.
Okay. And and this is his recommendations.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Let's let the young lady finish.
Okay.
I appreciate, thank you, sit down. Thank you. I could be in the senior housing. And I'm glad it's there. I'm not saying that. We're very happy it's there. But our concern is that it's very close to the windows. And if it could be moved down further, but then that's a little more of a walk. Or if it was closer to where the new units are, and it could be on a grade, and it would be off so that the fire truck and the ambulance and all of that could still do fine. And this could have probably been avoided if it had been thought about when they first designed it. And we're so sorry that we seem to be a nuisance to the Guilford Housing Authority when we say something about it, but we just couldn't believe it, and we didn't make, as I said, I hesitated even in calling to find out where are they finally making the decision to put the dumpsters. And before they used to be in cans, and as she said, it was probably, but it was hidden behind something, and it was further away from our windows, and now it's larger, but...
I could just ask, did you discuss with GHA these other locations, or did you have a preferred location?
We have not been on good talking terms. So therefore, by the time this dumpster issue came up, because the fence kept falling down, and they did a beautiful job of finally correcting that. So that's now, but when this came up, and I said, oh, I guess this is where they're going to finally keep the dumpsters. But they just moved it from the across the street to closer to us.
Well, let me just ask you this. Given that it's all been built, it is what it is today, if you were running the show there, where would you want to place the dumpster?
I want it closer to where the 9 units for handicapped people.
Both of them, or both of them, or just the one that?
Just the 2 yard.
The
that's
2 yard.
what they.
So you're okay with the larger one?
Oh yeah,
2 yard one.
That's so far away, and that's really.
And you're
not even near a residence. The neighbor for that is just yards.
And your suggestion is the 2 yard one should go closer to, and there is space there to put it, in your opinion?
I have a suggestion here that's at the other end, because the dumpster is right here where our house is, and it could be there, or in that cul-de-sac right here where it turns. There's a spot that Dennis suggested, if he put a flat, pavement or something on there, and then you put it there, it could be right there.
Okay.
So that was a suggestion. I know it's going to run...
Can I see that picture, please?
It's going to run into money or something, but...
This is in the cold, and where are they proposing this?
The applicant.
Okay.
It's here now.
Yeah, it's right here right now. And this suggestion was, this is where the parking is. So there's a bump out here. And this is the bump out right there. And there's 2 parking spots there, and they have a garbage thing there, a small one, but they could put it right here, so it could be a 2-yarder. And it wouldn't be interfere, it'd be closer to the residents, to the 9 units there.
Is that at all possible, Jeff, to move it, or is there a reason why that wasn't considered? I'm just
putting in the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Putting in the cul-de-sac, according to my client, is not optimal because it impacts fire and safety access and snow.
Okay.
Not in that spot, because as Dennis said, it would be right on the grass.
But putting it on the grass also creates a problem because then the handicapped residents can't access it.
Because now our guys
gotta be
can't
on a
shovel
flat
around
surface.
the dumpsters for the people. It's on the pavement.
Well, then it could be moved further down on that other choice, which I said, just
I had a quick question.
nine.
You said you have a fence. Now, can you see the dumpster, or can you just smell the dumpster?
I can see the dumpster from my dining room window, because the Schweitzer does not push it back.
But if it's in its proper location, can you see the dumpster?
It's right now, and it's what they consider proper location. I can see the dumpster.
There's an receding fence.
Yeah.
If it
No,
was
well,
pushed back, if it's pushed back.
If it's pushed back, you can't see it as well, but the smell, and then possibly any kind of large trash that they want to make sure is picked up within a week or so, that's going to be there. So the way they have the dumpsters in here, the larger dumpster is down further, right? Where is it? Here. There, you have room. You have definitely 2 parking spots used. Here, you only have 1 parking spot used, but there's 2 designated. And my hope would be just move it down further. 8 parking spots. 8 times 9 is 72 feet.
So this is, currently it's taking up.
Are you saying if you move it to a...
6-yard.
So, right.
This is what I'm talking about?
Right, and today, this is right over here. It's parked this way. It's not sat that way. So it's whatever Schweitzer wants to do. So it's...
So if you moved it, you'd be adding on or gaining 2 parking spots?
No, there are, where this is, there are 9 parking spots.
Yeah.
They chose to put it into the parking spot furthest west
Of the 9, so.
of the 9.
So now there's
So all
only,
I'm asking to do is bring it down to the other end.
take a parking
Yes.
spot down there?
Yes, that's all I'm asking.
So this
that way-
is this way.
Right.
I am looking at this.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the
So
2-yarder.
I'm asking just to put it over here instead.
So I know why it's, this is not too optimal for a trash pickup. That's why they're probably reversing it, because it's easy for the truck to drive straight in, which would lead me to believe that, and I don't know handicap regulations on parking, you have two, and what I would think would be a better alternative than trying to do some site work here and chopping up and having to repave or pour a foundation, is you have 2 parking spaces directly next to this building where they could have a refuse truck to pull straight in.
I know.
And it doesn't look like this is showing like some
And
breakage. I mean, that's
it
just.
only seems to be, every time I see it, one person's parked there. So
And I'm
that
not
could
sure.
be
But
used.
those are the parking spaces for the, so they can be
handicap.
close
Those
to
are the
their,
handicap
yeah.
spaces. Correct. And then that fence is 8
It's 8-foot fence.
8-foot fence.
8-foot
Yeah.
fence,
We
right.
did it at their request.
That's right.
Where are the other parking spaces for the, so you got 2 parking spaces.
And then here, they're in there.
And then he's
Yes,
here.
it's right, 1,
These are
2,
all parking
3,
spaces.
yes. And there's a gazebo over here. And that's the center.
And then we're here, and then this is parking.
If Schweitzer were to pay more attention to the proper replacement of the dumpster, that would be helpful.
They come on Monday. I'm not complaining about the noise, doesn't matter. I understand that. It's just where it's located. It just needs to be located either in that same parking area down to the other end, fine, or in benefit of the handicapped people, have it closer to them. That's my thing.
Because if we move it, we're in a very difficult position, because if we move it down, then we're taking handicapped spaces away, and we can't do that. And we can't afford to start digging and doing, site work and putting concrete pads down. And this, is in the middle here, so at least it does accommodate them. It's small, it's only a 2-yarder. It gets emptied all the time. We had that one instance where he said that, there were some things out. That happens once in a while, but, I've talked to our maintenance guys. I said, make sure every morning that those covers are down, to really look out. I don't think we've had any problems since.
Is there any sort of solution that you guys could come to on your own with this, or you think?
I would like to see the solution.
Well, no, I know what you would like to see.
I don't think it's understood, though.
Well, I
Do you
just want to
understand
hear
this
their-
solution? Do you ever hear?
What is this right here?
I don't know, it's a circle, but
That
that's,
must be a park.
it's a parking space. There are 9 parking spaces, 1, 2,
And
3, 4, 5, 6,
we're
7, 9.
moving it farther.
Yes,
We're
exactly.
far away enough as it is, and I don't want to move it farther away, then there's almost no point in having it, then they might as well
And having a
walk down.
second dumpster as
Yeah.
opposed to the first large.
Are we trying to design alternatives right here?
No.
Seems like,
I mean, this doesn't seem too far-fetched, putting it here. I mean, yes, it's going to be another 8, 16, 64 feet probably.
Yeah.
Makes a difference, but it's already a pretty good distance. I mean, to solve a problem versus trying to say, okay, like I said, do it down here, which you said probably isn't practical, just taking my handicap. We know it's not practical to start digging on the grass or to try to pour a pad. That seems like I don't know if we could even have that kind of authority to even say, but that seems like a really good solution. Yes, it is 60 extra feet probably.
Yeah.
I mean, technically we can deny it.
Well, could I make a suggestion that maybe, I know there's been some, I don't want to say hostility, but some issues between the parties. Would it pay to try to go back, take 2 weeks, there's another hearing coming up.
It's January.
So it'll have to be a month, okay? Because we're not going to have one, I guess, second this month. Try to work it out, and if you can, that's great. If you can both compromise and come to a reasonable solution that fits both your needs to the extent possible. And if not, come back to it and you'll decide, and somebody may be happy and somebody may not be.
I mean, we really tried to be good neighbors, and we have accommodated everything that they have asked for.
No, I don't doubt that, but what I'm just saying is that there's been some alternate solutions talked about. If you guys can work it out, you probably may not get 100% of what everybody wants, but you're likely to get more than if you come back here and somebody gets stuck with something they really don't like. So that would be my suggestion, to at least try it. And like I said, if you can't, then we'll take it up at the next meeting and make a decision. Is that fair?
I would like to approve the large dumpster this evening, since that's not a subject of factual.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I think the large dumpster was actually in the plans for years because that wasn't changed. All of this, the history is what I read. This all happened when they came in and said we are going to be building. And we didn't know how to read a plan, so we didn't see that it was missing in 2010.
No, I'm not, I mean, what's happened just happened, okay? All I'm saying is we're trying to solve the problem moving forward. So if you're okay where the large dumpster is, if everyone here agrees, I don't see a problem approving it. Go back, take, until the first of the year, work this out. If you can, great. And everybody's going to be happy. If not, then we'll make the decision here.
And by the way, you made a very nice presentation.
Good job.
We have one more.
I have a question. George, if this application came in today, or it didn't, and it doesn't matter who it is, but if an application came in today, any dumpsters on that property or any other property have to have a fence around them. Isn't that correct? Don't they have to be? Don't they have to be sheltered?
In terms of what? Public health code?
Well, that and the fact that I would think that it is pretty stacked. I mean, in any commercial entity, they don't leave the dumpsters out in the middle. They have to be enclosed.
Right. That's usually that's usually part of the design or the proposal of the applicant, or perhaps a recommendation of the design review. There's no requirement in zoning that they be enclosed.
Right.
The previous one was that it had two small trash cans. It was across the street, so it was closed. So it's visible, but our concern is that smell at least 60 feet needs to be there in order to.
Yeah, I mean, you have legitimate concerns. They have issues as well, because it is what it is. There are people living there. You have to have trash taken care of. So I think if you can work it out again, great. If not, we'll deal with it.
I would like to finish reading into the record.
Yes.
That I left off at.
Now, where did it leave off?
We left off at the second paragraph. Ms. Skopowski gave me the rest of it. And I'll read the paragraph before to lead us into this. On September 9th, 2014, a re-inspection of the dumpsters by Dennis Johnson revealed that all dumpsters were covered and no odor of garbage was present. Additional inspections on September 10, 11, 12, and 15 revealed that the dumpsters were covered, well-maintained, and did not present a health code violation. On September 17, 2014, Dennis Johnson met with Irene and Matt Kubutsky to discuss the dumpster complaint and consider a possible resolution to the dumpster location. The Kubutskys were concerned about the location of the dumpster in relation to their house and the likelihood of future nuisance conditions such as odor, vermin, and trash. The Kubutskys had filed a complaint on 8/21/2014 regarding a strong rotten odor emitting from the dumpsters. Apparently, this odor resulted from the small dumpster not being completely emptied by the waste hauler Schweitzer. It was noted during the meeting that the current site plan for the GHA did not designate a dumpster location. The previous dumpster waste receptacle location had been located across the driveway in an area which is now dedicated to parking spaces. The current location of the dumpsters have been selected by the GHA. Although there are no public health code regulations regarding the location of the dumpsters, the health code does require all dumpsters containing household garbage to be covered and maintained in a sanitary condition. No odor, spillage, or vermin. It was explained to the Kubutskys that this matter may be more of a site plan, non-compliance issue instead of a health code violation. There also appear to be other locations on the GHA property at which the dumpster could be relocated in order to reduce the likelihood of future complaints. On September 18th, 2014, at the request of the Kubutskys, Dennis Johnson met at the GHA site to look at possible relocation options for the dumpster. If the GHA was willing to move the containers away from the property line, alternate locations for the dumpsters appear to be available, including 1, along the cul-de-sac over the curb but bumped out near the new units, 2, further west 60 feet from the current location, 3, within a vehicle parking space adjacent to the new housing units. On September 19, 2014, I placed a call to Angela Ross, Executive Director of the GHA, to discuss the complaint regarding the dumpster location. Ross acknowledged that there had been complaints from the Kubuskis in the past and that GHA had tried to address the complaints on a case-by-case basis. I explained the situation with the current dumpster and its close proximity to a residential dwelling. I informed her of the complaint from the Kubuskis occurring on August 21 regarding the presence of an obnoxious odor occurring from leftover garbage in the dumpster and the concern that such a situation could occur again. I suggested that the GHA consider relocating the dumpster to a location that would be further away from the Kubuskis' house so as to reduce the likelihood of complaints in the future. Ross expressed concern about relocating the dumpster further away from the handicapped housing units as it would create more of an inconvenience for the disabled residents when carrying their trash bags. I suggested that the dumpster could be set closer to the new housing units, maybe up on the bump out curb of the cul-de-sac or in a non-handicapped parking space. Ross was reluctant to utilize these areas because they would confiscate parking spaces and maybe present a problem with snow removal during the winter. Ross mentioned that a meeting had been scheduled with the Kubuskis on September 30th, 2014 to discuss this matter and hopefully resolve the complaint. I mentioned that since there was no recognized or approved location for the garbage dumpsters on the previous approved site plan, that the GHA may have to reapply to the Planning and Zoning Commission in order to get a designated dumpster site approved. Ross was aware of this process and was willing to comply with the requirements for approval of a site plan if requested.
Thanks, Josh. So the question really is, that second part of that letter really changes the complexion of the letter for me. How did we not get a full copy of the letter?
I never got a full copy. But I got
Just that first two
Yeah.
paragraphs?
Yeah,
That's interesting. Was it? Well,
I never saw it.
Well, if our health director is recommending a relocation.
Well, the reason that Ray is saying that we can hold off is because there are a spectrum of answers all the way from simply approving it exactly as is to approving it with a higher fence, all the way to moving it over next to the existing dumpster, to moving it up on the curb, to moving it to these various other locations that Dennis Johnson has mentioned. And there are subtleties to which of those might actually be best for you guys for the long term, and we are not the best equipped to choose among those many options.
Honestly, I tried to schedule a meeting with the Kaminsky's for the September 30th, and then 2 days later, I got a planning and zoning violation notice, so that kind of put the kibosh to any talking that I was going to do.
But there's still time.
Well, there's an opportunity. Consider this an opportunity to try to work through it. It's not good to try to design this on the fly where this should go, as Walter points out. There's a lot of variables here. Please sit down, try to work it out where it works for both of you. If you can't, come in and we'll decide next time.
Because if we do it, we probably won't make you quite as happy as if we figure it out.
And the only reason I hesitate on a meeting is because at that meeting, I was invited to bring a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer.
Or do you need one?
You don't need one. I think, you want to work with them to see if you can come to a reasonable solution.
I've always wanted to work with them.
It's less of a legal problem, I think, and more of a trying to work together to see where this can be placed, listening to them, and I'm listening to you, so you're both here. I mean, if there's going to be snow removal issues or it's going to be a safety hazard to the handicap, it's not going to work, okay? So you've got to both listen to one another and try to work it out.
We've lived next door to them for 25 years. 27 years. And up until about 5 years ago, it was very cordial, and then it got very legalistic for some reason. And every time there was any kind of communication, it had to be, we got a letter with registered mail, writing down that we had to confirm that we got this. And so that kind of environment doesn't really suggest neighborliness to me, and because you really are now having a lawyer between us and them. And I don't know why the tone changed, but it did.
Well, there is a requirement that you have to be given notice by certified mail, so some of this
This
is...
was not just for that.
Okay.
This was for other things.
Well, I'm sure they wanted to just make sure you received the notice, but what's happened is happened. We can't change that. All I'm telling you is to sit down, try to work this thing out between you, because if you can't, it's going to come back here, and we're going to make the decision, and you may be happier or less happier than if you worked it out together.
And we're bad at everything.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to continue to the January 7th?
Just before you act on that,
No, we have to do that.
just so I can, I just want to respond to the chairman's comment. This is the copy of the letter that I received. There's nothing on the other side, and so I just wanted it clear that what I submitted was what I received. Remember, the file.
There are two separate memos. The one we have is the same that Dennis Johnson wrote. So he wrote a second memo to the file, which is the one we have a copy of, which is actually a month later than the September 23rd. The one that we received is dated October 23rd. So they are two separate communications.
But George, they're the same exact thing, it's just added verbiage.
And I guess, you know,
to take on the original one and add it.
certainly the second letter's complexion was different than the first one.
Yeah.
Comes to one hearing. But, so that's kind of
The first one is the long, the earlier one is the long one.
Yeah.
The second one is the
That makes
shorter
no sense.
No, I got
And-
the shorter one and not the
Yeah.
long one.
Right. And how many times has that happened where we didn't get all the information, we only got part of the letter that...
First time.
First time ever.
This is the first time ever.
All right, so we have a motion in front of us. Any other comments, Councilor? No?
We can only move to close the public hearing at this point, so we
Right.
probably should just...
No, you can continue the hearing.
Continue the hearing?
Yeah, to January 7th.
Components of it that we might want to
Yeah,
approve.
that's what you, I think.
And we're not
that's the correct-
concerned about approving the larger dumpster
I don't
tonight, because
think
we
you-
can do that at any time.
No, because it's one application, and I don't see, there's no real reason to act on the larger dumpster. It's
They're both
it's
still
not a
there.
hardship to leave it there.
Right.
Can we act
for
on
a
the fee
month.
tonight?
Pardon me?
Can we act on the fee tonight?
I think it's a separate request.
It's a separate, that's a separate item, but if you want to continue the hearing, then you won't be able to act on any aspect of it, but I don't see any hardship in doing that.
Good. So Frank made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So please talk, work it out.
See you in January.
And we won't hopefully have to deal with it. We want to make a motion to waive the fee.
That's later.
Oh, later. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good job tonight.
I can pass it on.
All right, can I get a motion to open Ms. Pelleggi, 133 Shelby Road, map 13, lot 2, zone power 5, coastal area management site plan, Mary's house?
So moved.
That's it, good. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Who's here? Anyone here for Cheryl Pelleggi? Ah, good. Come on down.
Ma'am, your name is pronounced Pileggi.
Pelleggi.
Pileggi. Okay, thank you.
And this is Paul Whitney, my house.
Building numbers, 35, all the place in Milford,
Fraser. And George, I believe it's the same George, called me earlier, and he wanted photographs to document the cottage as it is. And it's on the survey drawing, but it's almost 9 feet underneath here. And when Hurricane Irene came in, it came right up to underneath the floor, but it didn't actually come inside the cottage. So I also brought, the side view, which over here is where we want to put one of the water tanks, and then the other one would go up front, so that because our water tanks washed away as well.
Were you in the house when the water came up that night?
No, we weren't there then. I had been there like a week before. And we retrieved the tanks from the marsh, friends did, and then they got stolen. So the tanks basically would be off to the side and closer to the road. And that's indicated on the survey plan. And he can go over the how far up we'll have to go. Yeah, that's, I only brought them. Yes, you can have those. Yeah, put me close. So, here's the road, and here's the 1,500 gallon tank closer to the road, and then here's the one to the side with the setbacks from the property line. And the cottage footprint, including the decks, the plan is to raise it all together, so we won't be adding any more, square footage. We'll remove the chimney, but just build a wooden enclosure because we want to install, like maybe an electric stove or something. Same footprint. Yeah, same footprint. And then out here, I had to track it down for the engineer. This is where the coastal jurisdiction line elevation is. So that's basically the survey, and then here is the engineer's foundation. So he's got it all detailed out. Paul did
How many feet do you have to raise it? It's going to be going up about 4 feet. Right now it's at elevation. We did the one right next door earlier this year. They're basically the same.
Right.
Same foundation. Came out solid.
No height variances or anything like that, you're still within.
Well, it is at 13 is the height.
So you'll be right.
Right at it. Okay.
And we were lucky, at the elevation we were at, but who knows what other storm is going to come down.
13, that'll be at the top of the masonry pier, so the house.
So I think Ray's question was, though, is there a height requirement?
Well, just the variance that was required, it sounds like it was.
Yeah, I think FEMA just requires 13.
No, the height.
I don't think it'd be, it's only a one-story pattern, so.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so there's no limitation.
Okay.
Right, the pitch, the roof, the ridge line wouldn't be above the 35 feet.
Water tanks are for drinking water or water storage?
No, it's not drinking water, but we have no well.
Okay.
And I've talked to Dennis Johnson many times over the years. And so we need the water for flushing toilets and washing dishes and buy bottled water.
So the current height of the floor from the ground is approximately what at the highest and lowest?
Well, it's at elevation 9, but the floor is, I would say, is maybe about this height, about maybe 6 feet off the ground.
And the floor 6 feet above the ground is at elevation 9.
Right. So we're raising it about 4 feet.
And the house is completely within a VE zone from front to back, all the way to almost to the road.
What does VE stand for?
That's the velocity. Velocity. That's all.
I'm going to read a letter. This is a letter from Kevin to Guilford Planning and Zoning regarding the Lake Coastal Area Management Review. This information provided, the information provided indicates that the existing house will be elevated above FEMA flood elevations. The existing house is located in a FEMA flood zone AE/EL11 and adjacent to a zone VE/EL13 with a first floor elevation of approximately elevation of 8.76 assuming feet. The existing building is proposed to be elevated above the FEMA VE13 wave velocity zone requirements. It is my understanding from the detailed sheet that the work will involve the jacking of the house, digging for sonotubes and concrete footing, and the constructing concrete piers with reinforced concrete blocks. No erosion and sedimentation control measures were shown on the site plan. However, the applicant noted that the erosion control measures will be utilized. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected during the construction process, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, erosion and sedimentation control measures consisting of hay bales and/or silt fence be installed around the perimeter of the work area. 2, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. That's it.
We have another letter too, right?
Yeah, this one's from Dennis Johnson. It's a quick one, dated December 2, 2014. The applicant proposed house elevation does not conflict with existing septic system or water facilities currently existing on the site.
Here's the rest of the letter.
See, the house is actually in an AE, and it's just EL11, and you're building to the specifications of EL13. So you're applying 2 feet of freeboard.
I think it's in a B. He's in both.
You're in both.
It says existing house.
Or Jason have to go to revert to the B zone. Rather than if you have half and half, I think it has to go to the worst.
The worst zone.
Right. So you're not applying freeboard per se, you're just building to the specifications of the most stringent zone on your property. Okay, thank you.
It's still under this defense. Have to see the survey.
No questions? Frank?
But you did have the engineer design it, and the engineer was aware of the zones you were adjacent to it, and the surveyor laid it out, so you're sure your sight lines.
Everything goes that way. And show have elevations.
Okay.
I'm just curious about the water tanks again. I know you don't have a well on your property, but you're putting 3,000 gallons. Are they going to be in the ground or above ground?
The tanks will be in the ground.
And this is for septic and...
No.
Just for water.
Just for, it used to be a cistern where it collected the rain off the roof for a long time.
Okay.
And then we went to the plastic tanks that were under the cottage.
Okay.
And they worked fine.
It's installed.
And you do have to drain them every year if they have any water. But my understanding, if you fill the tank underground at the end of the season, it's not going to flow out and wash away.
Probably not. All right, any other questions? Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, now I get a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Do they have a map?
Yeah, I gave them the copies, so they each have a survey.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, motion to open Mayor Weissman. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Who do we have for Mayor Weissman? Anyone?
Yeah, they're here. Oh, John.
Here we go. They're coming in one door, that she's going out the other.
For the record, I'm Mark Young. I'm a land surveyor at Baldwin Associates, representing Mara Weissman, the owner of this property. We're applying for coastal site plan approval to demolish an existing house. The property is down at the end of Andrews Road. On this map, which is that one, it goes 20 feet. Andrews Road is here. The old harbor is here. And the house we'll be working on is right here. There's an existing cottage down here, which is not part of this application. The application is strictly for demolition of the existing house. We will be back at a later date with an application for construction of the new house. We feel it's a very benign activity. We will have a silt fence and hay bales on the downhill side of the house to contain any runoff. Most of the activity will be staged from the driveway area. They'll have a machine here taking the house apart, depositing material in dumpsters, and trucking it off-site. So there'll be minimal impact anywhere else on the site. After the house is removed, it'll be graded off evenly, and we'll mulch it and plant some green grass seed, which will stabilize the site until which time the owners decide to construct a new house. With the silt fence protecting, containing any runoff, we feel there will be no effect on the coastal resources, which surround the harbor here. We have a number of resources. Just to quote a couple of them, there's the rocky shorefront here. There's a little bit of tidal wetland, the beach, and of course the nearshore waters. As I said, this application is strictly for the demo, and we will be back later on with the house plans.
Great.
Mark, is it correct that none of this is subject to inland wetlands review because
Correct.
it's all...
There's no inland wetlands on the site.
That was it.
There's a letter here to Katie. It's dated November 13th. We have reviewed the above referenced proposal for. Oh, this is a different one. I got the letter for this.
All right, so Rich is chopping at the bit here. Give it up.
This is dated yesterday, December 2nd, from Kevin McGee. Regarding the coastal area management review, Mara Weissman, 117 Andrews Road, Guilford, Connecticut, Assessors Map 12, Lot 76B. The information provided indicates that the existing house located within 100 feet of a coastal resource and adjacent to a steep slope will be demolished. The plan also provides a demolition sequence that notes that the demolition material will be placed into a dumpster and the cellar hole will be backfilled and stabilized with mulch or grass seed. The erosion and sedimentation control measures shown on the site plan are designed to protect the adjacent coastal resources. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected during the demolition process, I recommend the following condition of approval. The Town of Guilford Zoning Enforcement Officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer.
Bill, you had a question?
Has any site work been done other than the building on the site now, up to this
No,
point?
there's been some, minor work just to keep the house intact, to avoid any. They've tried to secure it. There has been some vandalism, but besides that, there's no major work here has been done. There's some renovations to cottage, but that's not part of this application. It's a separate issue.
Frank? Walter? Any more questions? Any questions? No, you have a question? Come on down.
I'm Suzanne Kelly and a neighbor of Mrs. Weissman's. And we have a little studio just above the property line on the top. And many trees are sprinkled along the property line. And I'd like to make sure, or ask that heavy machinery doesn't tread on the roots of the trees that stand out. There's a great deal of ledge there, and the roots are close to the surface. And so I'm just offering that, making that request. Okay. And as well as down by the street, just west of the Weissman's mailbox is perhaps a bit of a parking area, I mean makeshift, that trucks have used, and that too might impact some white oaks that are there and a yew tree. And again, I'd like to ask that no heavy machinery be parked there.
We will make them aware of their concerns.
Thank you.
Nice. Very nice. Good. Mark, what's the distance from the demo activity to that property line of hers?
Well, the building line shown here is 20 feet. So the house, it's another 25 feet. So the nearest point of the house is 55 feet. Wait a minute.
I think she's requesting on their
I can't 45 feet from the property line. So I don't expect there would be any, would likely be any damage to any trees up here. They're mostly going to be working from this end. And, when they take the foundation out, they're not going to be more than a few feet outside the existing footprint. So, I don't think there'll be any effect on the trees uphill.
Good. That's nice. Thank you. Anything else? Anything else from the audience that we have someone?
Yeah, I'm on the planning commission, and I was just wondering if you could identify yourself. Anthony Galusha, on my address. That's 2692 Boston Post Road. And as a member of the planning commission, I would like to know if possibly something could be proposed to the commission to let us know exactly what's going on there. I mean, because there are concerns. That's one of our most popular clam beds in Little Harbor. So I was wondering if we could be made aware, the commission could be made aware, because this is the first that I'm hearing of it.
Well, we will.
I mean, I understand that you're saying that you're going to have the silk fence and the but
I can't imagine how this project would affect the plans
from the construction.
Correct, but it's part of ways, and we do have both silk fence and hay bale specified to contain any runoff. So, and also too, Reggie will be notified. So, if she feels appropriate, I'm sure she'll let you know.
Victor.
Victor, I'm not sure. 2614 Boston Post Road. I don't have any objection to the demolition request, but I think a condition should be put on it to make sure that, based on the age of the home, and there may be some asbestos in the home, there may be some contaminated materials that could leach in to the area, that be inspected, and any remediation that would be necessary before the demolition should take place. And I would just recommend that to the board as a safety precaution, because anything that's asbestos, I mean, I've demolished houses before myself, and we've had inspections, and we found asbestos that had to be remediated. So if that's been done, then I don't have any issues.
It sounds like that's a building code issue. I'm sure the building inspector will
it's not.
Will handle that.
It's not.
And if I may, if you could hear me, I'm John Bennett, and I represent Mara Weissman. That's all been done as part of putting together a contract for the demolition. All that inspection and review and anything that needed to be done has been done. So thank you.
Done by?
The contractor, I assume the contractor was looking at the project.
Well, let me just make a comment towards that.
Yeah.
Is that there are very specific demolition permits.
No, I understand.
That have been issued in the state of Connecticut, where you have to be a licensed demolition. And part of that licensing is to do an official environmental inspection of the house to make sure there's no contaminants that are going to go into the air, soil, etc. That needs to be certified by the proper environmental agency.
I understand that, and that's why I'm saying that's been done, or is being done as part of this project, and we're aware of that. So I don't think they can get the demo permit without doing it, so.
Well, they can.
Oh, well.
They can.
Not our contractor in any case.
So if we were to approve this, you would have no problem if we made it a condition of the approval that it is with the appropriate inspections that Victor has mentioned.
Fine.
More questions? More comments? question? No, we have another one.
I just one quick one.
Go ahead, sir.
The gentleman said asbestos. The house was built before 1978 and was leaded. So EPA needs someone who's certified EPA. Don Joe. 180 James Bond Drive. That's it.
So the house was built in 1985, so probably not a big
So that's not an issue.
No, it's not an issue.
All right. Anyone else? Last chance. All right. No other questions? Can I get a motion to close this part?
Second.
All those in favor? All right. We have David and Janine Brown. 557 Rock Lane, map 10, lot 70, is on R2, coastal area management site plan, reconstruction of existing dwellings, new driveway, and 27391. We're going to table that to 17. Can I get a motion to start to open and table this date? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And last but not least, amendment to 27321 commercial design to eliminate provision allowing bulk storage and sale of propane on certain parcels of land. First hearing. And a motion to open that. No motions to open that?
Move to open.
Second. All those in favor?
I'm going to recuse myself. It's awful loud.
You're out, sweet.
You can seat somebody.
Okay, so
it's the first hearing, so there's
you're
no
on this
voting.
time. So Phil, you're on for this part of this hearing.
Okay.
Okay. George, bring us up to speed.
Okay, you'll recall that several months ago we amended the zoning code, section 27321, commercial design district, to allow as a permitted use bulk storage, retail sale of propane on parcels of land containing less than 4 acres in area, located west of Westlake Avenue and south of US Route 1 in the CD zone by special permit. This proposal tonight is to delete that section of the zoning code. This is the first hearing on that subject. So the language that you added a number of months ago, this proposal will delete that exact same language.
Okay. And we have no applications in front of us at this time for that parcel for that use?
No, we do not.
Okay. So with that in mind, do we have any questions from the commission?
Yeah, could you kind of simplify that and give me an explanation of what you're trying to do here?
Okay, so we had a wording change for this parcel to allow, on this one parcel, the storage and distribution of propane.
Is that
Yes, it's that.
$15,000 thing or whatever?
Yes, it was that. Yes. And we're going to, this is the first hearing in which we're going to consider undoing that and taking it away.
Because?
For many, many different reasons. Safety,
the planning committee listed a bunch of reasons from their meeting where they presented this, right?
I'm sorry?
The planning committee presented a set of reasons.
Mr. Copps
a couple of
presented
them,
finding
Well, we didn't specifically address their...
that spot, but in general.
We were really looking at other spots besides that.
But that was included in it, yes? Or did I misunderstand?
Well, the letter did say that we're not recommending any additional bulk propane storage other than the 2 sites.
Right, so that means yes, it means that's what. Okay. All right. So, you know, there's some safety concerns. Residential area, very close proximity to homes, presented some safety issues, and the applicant appears to have possibly moved on to choosing another location. And so we'd like to take this opportunity to return this back to not being able to support propane storage and distribution.
Is that got anything to do with what we're reading about a legal issue or town being sued or
George,
something?
can you talk up just a little bit for me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just wondering, having read...
No, actually, I think what you're referring to is over on River Street, the town was being
No, there is a lawsuit where the folks who filed, I think it's the the West End Homeowners Association
yes.
wants to overturn the approval. So it would seem to me that, you know, this ought to be negotiated with them so that that lawsuit is withdrawn if this happens to be, to save the town as well as the individuals pursuing that matter time and money.
Yep.
So I would have thought that that would have been negotiated, and if it was a settlement was reached, this might have been part of the settlement.
I'm not aware of any formal negotiations.
Okay, normally that happens first, because what they're looking for is the same thing that you're offering here, and it would be nice to package that so that the town, and in fairness to the individual, save time and money pursuing this legally.
It would be strange for them to continue to pursue it, though, after, if it were to be actually rescinded, right?
Maybe, but I'm just saying that might be a way to save time and money. I mean, it could be ruled moot, you know, at that point, or they may choose to pursue it. I don't know.
Would you be more comfortable if perhaps the West End group maybe sent a memorandum saying that if this indeed is discontinued and changed back to the way it was?
Well, I don't know, because we're not the only party to it. I think Sullivan was also sued, so we can't speak for Sullivan, and I can't. That's why.
I'm asking what would make you comfortable.
What would make me comfortable is, yes, we package it and say that if we agree to pass this, would you agree to drop your suit against the town?
And what form would that agreement take?
I think the proper course in that regard would be, since this hearing has to continue to January 7th, that we ask our counsel to address that issue.
I would address it with the counsel for the individuals pursuing it and seeing if that would resolve the matter.
Is in fact Sullivan being sued at the same time as the town is on this?
I believe they're a party to it. I know they've appeared in the case. I don't know. I mean, I know they filed an appearance in it, so I believe they've either intervened or they're a party. I don't know, but I know the town is, and to the extent that we're offering to remove this, it would be nice to eliminate the time and cost to pursue that.
So though there's no application pending, if the Sullivan family is also being a party to this, and then we delete this before this has been settled, is there a possibility of a lawsuit from the Sullivans because we did what we
I don't know. You'd have to ask town council.
I think you ought to ask that.
Sure. We could ask town council to address all those issues.
Yep.
So if this gets undone, then everybody says something legally that they're giving up.
Has Sullivan commented at all in terms of their position on this?
Not to my knowledge.
That
would be
the first step, I would think.
Forum for them to do that.
This would be this is the forum.
I just don't want to wade into an area and get us sued again or something by not pursuing.
We're already in deep water.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay, just so I'm clear, what we would be looking for is some sort of an agreement with the town and the West End group that the charges would go away
for all parties.
And we'd also, I think, want to just make sure that we're not putting the town in a predicament where Sullivan could sue us too if we did this. And they may not be able to. I don't know whether they could or not. I'm just saying we probably should cover that base.
So, George.
And get an opinion from Chuck.
We could ask Chuck to address those questions.
Yeah.
You're going to ask Chuck, right?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, we're not, and if the answer is we would be dropped as a defendant in the case if we pursue this, I think it's a good idea to go forward.
Good. Perfect. Tom?
I agree. We have. So we can just table this to the next hearing.
Well,
it has to be continued to
The question is, can you get this done with the holidays and everything so that it's done by the next time we have this hearing?
I can't answer. Only Chuck Anderson can answer that question. But if he can't do it by the 7th, we can continue it even further. So
that's right.
So there's no timetable that is all interesting.
It could solve several issues.
Right. Frank? Anything else?
I agree.
Good. Walter? Anything else? Great. All right. I guess we can ask.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
This is public question time. This is it.
This is your moment.
Thanks. Kate Sharp, 2804 Boston Post Road. There sounds like there's a lot of assumptions, and I understand that the reference to the suit and to the town. But with the agenda item, with the first hearing, can't we open up for conversation or if there's any public comment, and then in parallel to what's stated tonight, the board go back and ask those legal questions from the legal counsel? So almost kind of doing it parallel to one another instead of just tabling all conversation, especially if it comes that they're kind of two different aspects.
We'd love it if you talk.
This is public. This is the public hearing.
So okay, great, thank you. So I didn't. That's not what I was hearing. I was hearing table.
Oh yeah. We have to table it to a second public hearing.
Okay. But you are
public comments, absolutely.
Public comment tonight.
Correct.
Okay. Well, then I'll keep talking for another minute. That's okay. So like I said, 2804 Boston Post Road. And I'm appreciative that you have actually put this back on the agenda item and considering changing it back. I was not aware of when this amendment came forward and was passed, or else I would have been here voicing my concern at that time. This has been a topic I'm sure everyone is well aware of, that there's been a lot of emotion behind, and I'm going to try and stay away from that. The little bit of emotion that I will share with you is I am less than 800 feet away from the proposed property. I have a 22-month-old son whose bedroom is my far corner pointing directly to the location. I'm born and raised here in Guilford. I know the area very well. I understand with the location that I live in that under one, I wasn't too keen. We went back to my husband's family roots. We have put in a lot of measures, again, that Route 1. We put borders around, but I also knew what could come around me, that there could be commercial zones, and that was absolutely fine. When I saw this amendment pass, knowing that potentially this propane tank in the middle of all residential families around us, it's very scary. I'll now step out of that emotional and go to data and statistics. There's a lot of data out there, there's a lot of statistics, there's a lot of examples of a lot of explosions, and when it comes to propane and leaks, the vast majority of that is due to human error. You can't control human error, no matter what you do to put restrictive and be proactive in a situation. So I am for reverting this amendment and taking away that proposal bulk propane, and I appreciate your time and consideration, and my family thanks you.
Thank you. Somebody else?
Tony Cafiro, speaking on behalf of myself, my family, and the West End Homeowners Association. It should be noted that the Sullivans are suing planning and zoning over the River Street decision from 2010. So the issue as to whether or not the board is going to be opened up to liability by virtue of whatever you decide to do with this amendment is almost moot. Because this amendment, we believe, was put on the books to alleviate the town of that lawsuit against the spot zoning. This one and only property in all of Guilford to support these 60,000 gallon tanks, which are 800 feet away from this lady's son's bedroom on a corner where traffic accidents are multiple and serious. We ask that you consider striking this amendment, redacting it, if I can, back to its original text wording prior to October 2013, and making this issue go away for all of us once and for all, and abiding by the recent decision by the Planning Committee to cap bulk propane in all of Guilford. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question. I heard that Marie DeFelice, 128 James, that this property is now on market again. Is that true?
I've heard that. I don't know.
Oh, we don't know for sure.
Is there a realtor?
The property in question, 2770 Boston Post Road, was on the market for 3 days, listed with a foreclosure agent out of Orange. I do not know, it was listed for $2,099. Which is a very good price for a 4 Center for it in parcel 1.01. We do not know the status. We don't know if it was sold, if it was treatment, but it's been delisted. That's all we know.
If I may, Sandy at 5 Jamestown Drive. I happened to be reading the land leaks in the local, either the Family Register or Guilford paper, and I believe because 2772 Boston Post Road is so ingrained in my head, I believe that is the property in question, and I believe it did sell to the bank. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of the bank, for $1. I believe that was listed, so if anyone would like to check my recollection. It is correct.
Okay, so it's owned by the bank.
This doesn't exactly relate to our decisions. Yeah. Can we never see it?
Anything?
Oh,
Anything?
what I'd like to bring up before the board.
Can you go up for Shannon?
Want you on camera? Okay. What I'm trying to get the board to consider are the definitions of bulk storage. I think that's where a lot of the problem lies. I mean, we all store propane in one way or another, in one volume way or another. And it is allowed, like Ocon has it, and they have 2,000-gallon tanks. That's also considered bulk storage. And these 30,000-gallon tanks, I think, fall into a different category. So try to convince the board that that's more of a terminal than it is storage. Because there are certain situations, I think in Guilford, that may warrant large amounts of bulk storage, like a school, they want to bury a 30,000-gallon tank. I know a lot of residences here in Guilford have 1,000, 2,000, even 3,000-gallon tanks buried. And when they're buried, they're quite safe. I think if we change or looked at the definition, and you have the right to define what bulk storage of propane is. If it's truly defined as the way it's been presented as a terminal, that's a whole different story. And that's, I think, we're all against here, is having a bulk propane truck terminal where trucks are going in and out, a lot of human error, and things that happen in situations like that. And even the Propane Association defines it themselves, and they have a difference between storage and a terminal. I think I sent everyone a report on this several months ago. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. It seems like I send these things out, but it just goes nowhere in the land. Nobody wants to talk about it. I would just like to have some kind of reaction from the board members. If you think this is not a direction to go, just say it, and we can drop it and just talk about bulk storage in the way that you're all defining it. If that's the I want to know what is the definition of bulk storage. Can you define that for me? So,
I was just going to say, I mean, I think what you're saying, and I agree with you, is that we don't want a recommendation from the planning committee to come to us and banning the possibility that someone in their own house who wants to put a new furnace in would not be allowed, based on the way that is written, would basically prevent anybody in town from putting in a new propane furnace in their house. So what you're saying is a 1,500-gallon tank or a 500-gallon tank, what size tank becomes bulk storage?
No.
Well, no.
The question is it a terminal or is it a storage?
Here's the difference as I see it. If, let's say, Pinchback decided they wanted to heat the greenhouse with propane. So a 20,000-gallon tank was what was appropriate for the amount that they needed.
Yes.
Putting that in there may be different than putting in this 30,000-gallon tank. The trucks coming in and out, filling it.
Okay.
So I think what Vic's getting to is a difference between a truck terminal with bulk propane storage and somebody using it for their business or for heating or something like that, and that's what we have to be careful of.
Is the intent to distribute the propane on site or utilize it on site.
That's sort of gets to it.
I get it.
George, I mean, the planning committee did discuss this in great length. They did discuss the concept of Victor's, the issue that he's raised. They discussed a proposed definition of bulk propane facility. They created a definition for a propane facility that addresses the issue that he's raised. But then they decided that we didn't want to have any such things in Guilford, and so they didn't need to go any further with a recommendation for creating such a definition. But none of that is really, I mean, that's only sort of tangentially related to the proposal that's on the table right now, which is to change that language with regard to the CD zone. The issue of whether or not we're going to create a new use to, which is a propane terminal or a bulk propane terminal or some other use that has those criteria is sort of a separate question, and it is one that the planning committee debated and decided not to move forward with because we determined, the committee did, that they didn't want to have any such things in Guilford. But that's really not...
Any such what things? I'm still confused.
What we think of, what we used to call bulk, what we used to call storage, which is a facility where there's a large volume stored and that there are trucks coming in and distributing it from that facility, like you have East River Energy now in Ocon, down on Soundview.
So if I was a company here, Safety Zone or somebody like that,
I wouldn't have anything to do with it. You can
no, but my question is this, are you saying that if they had a process where they needed large amounts of propane and they needed a 20,000 gallon tank on their property, they could do that?
Yes, they could.
Yes, they could.
And strictly a terminal.
Terminal and sale is what we thought, what we used to call storage, which is really was a misnomer, just as Victor said. But we don't regulate, that's an accessory activity to the principal use. If a homeowner wants to have a 30,000 gallon storage tank, in their yard, as long as it meets all the fire safety and other related codes, that's not something that's subject to zoning.
Well, I was just going to say what George said, but if this commission ever does want to formalize what a definition, you can go back in our minutes from the planning committee and you'll have a good start there and just do what you want from it.
Good. Thank you.
Just like to add one more thing. In the planning and zoning regulations, it says the words used in these regulations shall have the meaning commonly attributed to them. It's pretty obvious that bulk storage, the meaning of that is pretty clear. Doubts as to their precise meaning, application, or interpretation shall be determined by the Commission in accordance with the purpose and intent of these regulations. So you have the responsibility to define it, and that's all I ask. If you want to define bulk propane storage as a terminal, then say it. Say bulk propane storage is also a truck terminal. That's part of the definition. All I'm asking you for is to define it. For some reason, you don't want to define it. That's my question. Why?
Well, I think what's before us right now is really concise. We're changing some wording on a particular parcel. That might be a battle for another day. I know you want it, and I'd like to do it with you. Maybe we can work on it together sometime and present it to everyone and see if it's amenable to them. But I think that you probably should come up with wording and we can work on it together and present it to everyone. This may not be
the narrow framework of what we're considering right now.
Right.
We don't need to worry about defining bulk storage because we're proposing to eliminate the word from our code, at least with respect to this section of the regulations.
Good.
Victor, if we want to do if we want to narrow down a more specific definition, an appropriate place for us to start with that might be the zoning subcommittee in January.
That's fine. And I repeat, I think what Steve said is correct. Go back to the planning committee because they did a lot of work on this subject. They did discuss this at great length. They did, in fact, propose a definition that is consistent with what we're actually talking about. But again...
So maybe that's the avenue to move forward with it, but I think Victor should be part of that because he's...
He was, and we very much considered his contribution and his memos that we're proposing, talking about.
So we're going to take a quick break and change over the tape. We won't transact any business or have any discussion while the tape's being changed, and we'll be back in just a minute if everyone wants to step outside. Fresh time. And we're back, and I want to assure everyone that no business was transacted, no discussion was had. We were just finishing up the propane. Do we have any other comments? Ed?
Ed Dinsey, 2751 Boston Post Road. The one thing that I think everybody needs to remember is even if Sullivan takes a pass on this, right now, Ahmed, the ISIS terrorist, could buy it, put up tanks and blow them up. I mean, anybody could buy it.
We could. Yeah, you're right.
That's far-fetched, but what I'm saying is anybody could buy it and push through a plan to put up propane there.
We're working on that.
I know.
Ed's point was well, Tony Cafiro, Ed's point was well taken, in that it may not be clear to all the board members, especially the newer ones. This is the only parcel, this amendment defines the one and only parcel in all of Guilford where bulk storage, terminal, whatever the wording wants to be, of propane can be built.
Right.
So let that be made clear in your own minds. This is the one and only spot in the whole town, as defined by this amendment, where it can happen.
In Boston, they call it spot zone. Whatever you pay, you get the zone for. That's Boston politics. Forget that one for now.
We don't do that here.
No, we don't do that either.
Stop.
That's why I moved to refined town.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, is there a chance the microphones could be moved closer to you folks so we can't understand?
They're not
PA system, it's not a PA system.
strictly for the camera.
Okay.
So he
having
just have to speak up.
This gentleman, for instance.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could we bring people up to the front because Shannon's having trouble picking people up from their seats.
What's that?
We're having trouble picking people up from the seats.
Thank you, sir.
I'm just going to take what you say at face value.
Thank you. Ms. Green.
Elsa Green, Kenneth Circle. This small, inappropriate sized piece of property under 2 acres on a bad corner in residential area, in an area that West End is trying to define what we are and what we would like to become and how we would like to develop, and yet the thought of a propane terminal has already caused I think I know of 2 businesses to opt out of purchases that were in the vicinity, would do more damage to the ultimate development and planning for that end of town, leaving it essentially a wasteland out that end. And how it was originally proposed and allowed, I cannot imagine. It's cost the people in the area who are concerned about it an astounding amount of time and money, anxiety, and the faster you can do something to help us get this out of our daily lives and daily concerns, the better.
Great. Thank you. Brian.
Brian McClellan, 622 Mulberry Point Road. Since there was conversations about going back to council to get some clarification, it seemed like that really would be appropriate. I mean, there is, many of the West End people who are here are the association that's suing the town and the Sullivans. And I don't know what that does when a lawsuit is in place and the Planning and Zoning Commission is now trying to reverse a position that caused the lawsuit to come about. kind of in midstream, even though an application hasn't been filed. And maybe by the fact that the application has not been filed makes it fair game and not a problem. But I think that's something we have to clarify with Chuck, or our attorney, so assuming he's the one, so to make sure that if an action is taken that reverses this. I mean, the basis of the lawsuit said there wasn't proper notification of the neighbors, or they would have been out more in force. That was the biggest thing, I believe, driving that suit. So now we're trying to reverse the amendment without any of the notification either, but maybe that's okay because it's what everybody really wants to happen. But I mean, so if, to Ray's point, if the lawsuit doesn't agree to get dropped, I mean, the same basis of the suit of not proper notification, weren't properly notified now, but somehow we're making this recommendation to change the text amendment. So I don't know enough legalese, but I'm just asking or suggesting that when Chuck is counseled on this and before the next hearing, these things maybe get addressed, or maybe there is some way that both parties. It's one thing, the town is a piece. The town was named, but so are the Sullivans. And if they're named in it, and ultimately let's just say they're the ones that are impacted, should they want to come back and pursue this, you know, and they're sort of being blocked out. So I'm just being cautious, I guess, and suggesting we take a clear look at that so that the town is in fact protected should all this changing go through.
Thank you. And that's good. And George is going to be the lead guy on that. He's going to call Chuck probably tomorrow and get that process started, and he'll address all the issues that you just said. I'm sure. And probably some more that I'm not thinking about, because George is putting clear up. All right.
And to be clear, between now and the next hearing, regardless, and an application can be filed on that site. And also, if this commission decides to retain that language at its first January hearing, then an application can also continue to be made on that site indefinitely until something else is changed.
Right.
Ellen Stockel on Kevin Circle. I just want to get back. I know some of the panelists heard all this before and some people are new. And just to go back to the lady that has the little baby and car safety. J.J. Sullivan delivers one of my neighbors oil. And they did overfill the tank because they didn't hear the whistle. Twice they overfilled the tank. And you talk about human error. They did that into single cocaine. You know, there might be some human error there. And not just J.J. Sullivan, I mean, it could have been any company. But this could happen. One thing is I work down on Soundview Road, and they do have propane tanks down there. I have been evacuated down there. And so it's just, up here on the west end, we have more residential right here. You know, down on Soundview is mostly business, there are residential. But we're right in the center of everything that's going on here. And I just, you know, for the safety of us, we'd like to see that it doesn't be put in.
Good. Thank you.
Ken McKenzie, 6 Broad Street. I just want to point something out that I think is a little unfair. When you passed this amendment back in October, it was October 16th of 2013, you had a public hearing which the residents on the West End were not aware of, or else they would have attended, but there was only one here. And J.J. Sullivan was here. And you passed legislation that favored J.J. Sullivan in a huge way. And now tonight, you have the opportunity to withdraw that same amendment that you passed back then. And everybody here that is on the side that wants to have it withdrawn. But J.J. Sullivan, I don't see anybody, I see Jeff Beebe, but I don't see J.J. Sullivan here saying, we don't want you to withdraw this amendment. So a year ago, you threw something on the books quickly, yet you're unwilling to take it off. The lawsuit that the West End has against the town and J.J. Sullivan wants you to do exactly what you have the opportunity to do here tonight. They're not going to continue their suit if you take it away. Furthermore, J.J. Sullivan has no grounds to sue you for withdrawing the amendment. Just as these people, they can file an appeal, but they can't sue you. Personally, I don't think you have a shot of winning the suit. So why you would pay legal fees to have this continue, because it's ultimately going to get tossed out by the court. and it's going to come back to you again. So right now, you have a very easy and wide open window to redact this thing. These people are going to walk away. Sullivan has no standing whatsoever. I just don't see why we're wasting a lot of time with it. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Ken, could you just briefly elaborate on what you mean by Sullivan has no standing whatsoever at this time?
They don't have, to the best of my, unless somebody has made a deal with them that I'm certainly not aware of, and I'm not insinuating that that has happened, but unless there is some verbal deal, then as long as they don't have, under the rules as I see them, as long as they don't have an application pending, and as long as they have no equity ownership in the property, which to the best of my knowledge they don't, they did have a contract to purchase the property that I believe has expired because the property went on the market. So if they were involved with the property, then I think you would have some, and, you know, Ray can probably attest to all this, then they would have a stronger legal footing. But to the best of my knowledge, they don't. And they don't have an application pending. And they're just an ordinary citizen like everybody else is right now. So you're free to do whatever you choose to do.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know what their relationship is with the property, what interest they have or not, but I think that the best thing for everybody concerned would be if there's an agreement that if this does get passed, both the homeowners association as well as Sullivan will all be dropped from the suit goes away, and then there's no problem going forward. And I also do know that it was granted to Sullivan, so Sullivan, I don't know what interest they have in the property, okay? So you don't want to pull the rug out and find them coming after us. Now, if Chuck meets with council and council's agreeable that this can go away, I'd say move forward with it on the first meeting in January. I just don't know enough at this point. I mean, you know, people think, they assume.
Right. I think that, you know, we probably need to use an abundance of caution. I know everyone would like a decision right now, and I know we've had some changes in terms of how quickly we can enact things so that there is an absolute guarantee that the public is aware.
And we can't vote on it tonight anyways because of the new rules that were put in, partially because of what happened here. People didn't get notice that we now require 2 hearings before we can vote on it.
So
we can't vote tonight anyways.
We're captured by our own caution, which is okay.
That's good, actually. That's true.
So we're going to be cautious, and we're going to do it right, and we will come to a resolution that's right for everybody.
It can't come to a vote at the next meeting.
Right, it can't come at the next meeting, it can.
Kate Sharp, off Post Road. I was taken back when you provided me the opportunity earlier that I didn't have my thoughts. So I just kind of wanted to hit a few other quick highlights. And some of the folks have reiterated, especially Mr. Cafaro, you know, not only the actual property in question right now, but the surrounding area. Being all residential, I'm right on the corner, so I have a bird's eye view. The safety aspect of it, the accidents, I can count on 2 hands fatalities in just a small amount of time. In addition, Moose Hill is one way. You have the Gables. There is emergency personnel going at least once a day, if not up to 7 times a day, and they're flying. And yet, folks are still turning around and going out the wrong way. Not only that, you have 2 rehabilitation residents directly across from Moose Hill and then directly across from my residence, that there's emergency personnel coming at all hours of the night too. So you put that in the middle of tractor-trailer trucks and in and out, and from a safety perspective, it's just, so I just kind of wanted to highlight that. I'm all about the community growth and from an economic growth. I just have not seen any benefit with the recommendation or the proposal for this business. Thank you.
Thank you.
As a footnote, Tony Cafaro, Fire Chief Hershaft told us that there are 369 emergency vehicles going to the Gables in a given calendar year down this road at this corner. Unquote.
Okay.
Which includes fall assist. So they're down there every single day.
Sorry, can I add one more footnote?
Absolutely,
Sorry.
go right ahead. Please
So
do.
here's a little statistic. In accordance with the fire chief, there was a plan. I'll be honest with you, it's been several months now, so if it's been revised, I'm not aware. But there was a response plan, and my husband and I were mortified as we were going through it. And the response plan outlined what would happen if there was an accident or an explosion or some sort at this potential property. The biggest highlight of it was that they would let it burn for at least 10 minutes before making any kind of assessment. Well, 10 minutes, when you go back to the data, that explosion to my property, we're dead on impact. And then they would never go into the 1 mile radius that potentially could be impacted or affected by this explosion. So now you have all the residents, you have the elderly assistants, you have our emergency personnel and volunteer firefighters that are all at risk, but yet they will wait at least 10 minutes to make an assessment, and within that 10 minutes, there could be no kind of activity for rescue. Thank you.
Just one more little fact. Within that
Can you identify yourself, please?
area is the new high
Name,
school.
please.
Name,
I'm
Name
sorry.
for the record. Name and address for the
Oh,
record.
Marie D. Police, 128 Jamestown. I thought you knew because I said it before. But within that, that radius that you're talking about is the new high school on the students. I don't know if you're aware of that.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, Colleen Sacco, Tennis Circle, for the record. Coming out of there, you know, there have been fatalities there. I work early in the morning, and there's times that on my hill, because 10 circles a hill, I have one out on Moose Hill Road. It is a one-way street, but sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, I cannot get out the other way. I go out Moose Hill Road, you cannot see to the left, and that's why they made it a one-way street. You have these tankers coming out, and you have somebody flying over that hill, they're not going to see. And there's going to be more accidents and more incidents happening there.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I'm Susan DeFabio, 94 Kimberly Drive, a mile and a half off Route 1 or off of Westlake. It's the first time I'm able to come to a meeting and voice my opinion, so I hope you can hear it. I am greatly moved by the statistics and all the information that the rest of my neighbors have come here with. And I'm hoping now that, you know, maybe if a mistake was made in allowing this provision, maybe we'll have the courage to say, hey, this is just not going to work for us here in Guilford. So let's just get together and get rid of allowing for bulk propane.
Thank you.
Sir. Jay Flagg, 75 Trustwood Drive in Guilford. I think this whole proposal change from the get-go is a big mistake and a bad move, but I think you've got a chance to fix it, and you need to do that. This is not a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dick Green, Kenneth Circle. I'm sure all of you have observed as you come down Route 1 in that area from where Newers used to be down to Kenneth Circle, or yes, to Moose Hill, sorry. The sight lines are quite bad, and that's exactly where this property is. Somebody suggested, who's not totally against the idea of the propane being there, well, they could put a traffic light there. Well, the traffic light would probably have to be, I don't know, I'm guessing 30 feet high for anybody to see it as they're coming down. And many people do come down 50, 60 miles an hour, whether it be kids or whether it be, you know, it happens. And you can, at that rate of speed, losing control when there's no sight lines is very much a possibility. So I hope this is considered as well. I know it was mentioned strongly about the sight lines from the bottom, and that's why they made it a one-way street, but also from the top. So you've got two very negative traffic forces at play there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well.
Thank you, sir.
Last chance. Sir.
Anthony DeLucia, 2692 Boston Post Road. Looking at it from above, I think this is nothing more than a big game of chess. And we are the pawns, the people in West End. The reason why I say it's chess is because obviously everyone here knows that they have a proposal in North Branford now. And they're meeting quite a bit of opposition there also. So now we have to say to ourselves, well, they're meeting opposition and the town is listening to them. And they're listening to them, and it's in an industrial area. The wetlands had a proposal there years ago for a bigger building with more of an impact on the wetlands than what Sullivan is proposing. So I think that, you know, we're being held in checkmate here. We're at their mercy as the people in River Street were, as the people now in North Branford are. It's like they're in control more or less, and I think it's kind of unfair. I think it's unfair that Mr. McClone and Mr. Kroll put so much of their effort, their hard, good working time on the town's time. And why I could say that is because I would say about a year and a half ago, or about a year and 4 months ago, myself and my neighbor were called in for a private meeting with Mr. Kroll and Mr. McClone. And we were asked to change our CD zoning to TS2. Because at the time, TS2 was going to allow propane bulk storage, and they didn't want a spot zone. So we both refused. And with that, I had an application to put a fruit stand on my property, which there now is, and that was to come up last October. I was never notified that I was on the agenda that evening. I don't know if it's a coincidence or whatever, but that's the meeting where we had what I call spot zoning. So had I been here, everyone in the neighborhood would have known what was going on, and there would have been a lot more opposition a lot faster. So what's happening is our small army is turning bigger and bigger, and there's other towns that are noticing what's going on here. And it's just, you know, it's just not a good thing. And like everyone else has said, you have a chance to change it, and I think it's the right move to do that. And I can't buy that it's going to take longer than the next January meeting to have the town attorney look into some of the matters. I just can't buy that. You know, I mean, there's not that much on the table for him. So I would hope that he would be able to satisfy our needs by the next meeting. Because what's happening is, they're watching to see what happens in North Branford, and then they might come back, buy the property, and then put their application in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McClone.
Tony, I'd like to just comment.
Sure.
And it's really, well, just for information. When George and I asked Tony and Pete Carino to come in to talk about changing their CD zone, had nothing to do at all with this, and we never made any discussion about, and if you look at excuse me, just give me a minute, TS2 doesn't support propane either, okay, other than 1,000-gallon resale filling tanks. We had no thoughts of that. It was a discussion that was generated because of activity going on from the Table 5 study. And we've also looked at other areas of town. We have little spots of CD that don't make a lot of sense. The Guilford Savings Bank, right on the green, is a little CD zone. The little store office off of 77 exit 58 is a CD zone. And there's little, if you will, spots that don't make a lot of sense. So the Green Gallery is in a CD zone right in the middle of the green. So the idea was, at the time, was to try to look at the CD, what allowed uses were in a CD, what was allowed in TS2, and they wildly overlap, but there's actually more restrictions in language on a CD zone for permitting. So that was really the basis of that whole discussion. And one last comment, Tony. Who was the guy that called you when you wanted to come in and you said you weren't notified? Who called you and said, Tony, there's a discussion about your fruit stand. You got to get to the planning and zoning meeting. Who stood up? I have no idea. That fell through the cracks. But who was the guy that called you and then stood up and endorsed your project?
You did.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And just one other comment. Just to review, if you remember, I recorded the conversation, and I asked George Kroll, I said, George, you know why we're here. And I said, it's to help one of the good old boys. And George responds to me was, well, you're a good old boy. And I said, no, I'm not, George. Remember what was the driving range? So I'm not a good old boy in town here. So.
Okay. Well, okay, so let's move on. I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to continue this hearing until the first meeting in January.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you all so much for joining in. I appreciate it. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the revised agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Phil, I'm going to ask you to step down, and Josh is back on, and here we go. Deliberation of public hearing items. And it is 5 after 10. Oh, don't leave now. We're getting to the good stuff. Come on.
Guys, we're going to continue our meeting, so the other conversations outside.
Go to the hallway if you can.
Okay, so Town of Guilford, this is the roadway.
Can I read a motion?
Absolutely, sir.
This is a motion for Guilford Chaffinch Island Road. Voted the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management plan application for the Town of Guilford to reconstruct a portion of Chaffinch Island Road as shown on application dated January 24, 2014, and is heard at a public hearing on December 3, 2014. This application is approved.
Tom, maybe with the conditions that Kevin laid out in the letter.
Right.
Do you want to read them in, or should we?
I would just reference regarding the conditions in the
I'll say approved with the following conditions and reference the letter by
Kevin McGee.
Wetland Enforcement Officer Kevin McGee.
Dated December 1st, 2014.
Dated December 1st, 2014.
Do you have a second?
And I'll say it. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
There you go.
I'll second that.
Okay, so let's discuss this. What do we think? I can't even remember.
I think it's a good idea, and I think we should approve
We
it.
have to do it. We have to maintain access to the properties and to the park and, you know.
I mean, clearly, there's a lot of engineering that went into it. They looked at widening the road, keeping it the same. They didn't want to increase the impact on the wetlands. They're leaving in place maybe pipes since there isn't a problem. So it looks like the engineering's been done.
Right, and it's all good. There's all good stuff. So I can't see a reason why, but certainly, Walter, if you have a reason, please feel free to join in.
I was just a little bit concerned about the pipes just because they were, you know, pre-existing and whatever.
But they're just for equalizing. It's not for any real flow.
But he was clear that it has been working and it will continue to work. And if there's a problem with those later, that can be handled independently of this project.
Jim has been doing this for eons. So.
How long has Jim been doing?
40 years. A while. 40?
We've been advised by staff that Jim has been doing this for 40 years. That's 40, not
so
14.
He's got this. If he's confident, I'm confident in him.
No.
So, what else do we have? Anything else?
If you want to see it, just go look at the job done on Old Quarry Road. It's
Right,
similar to it.
That's the example, then we should definitely do this.
Yeah.
It looks great.
All right, so let's just do this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstaining, none. So
Guilford Housing Authority was tabled.
Guilford Housing Authority was tabled.
However, we have two motions to waive the fee for both the application and the special permit.
Can we do it together or separate?
Move to waive both of those fees.
Second.
Any discussion here?
I think it's important to waive fees when we're dealing with not-for-profit organizations and organizations that help out the community, similar to the organizations we've seen in the past before us. And it's important to waive fees when it's necessary.
Right, when we're truly supporting a real charity versus a pseudo-charity, and this is a real charity.
Unless there's information before us, it's hard to tell whether or not a charity is a pseudo-charity or...
Yeah, I know. Sometimes they cloak themselves and hide.
Are we having a proxy conversation about something that is not before us?
Absolutely not. We are not doing that.
Call for the question.
Call the questions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? None. Carries. Pelegi.
I've got it right here if you want to read it.
Please, sir.
I'm on the ball here.
You are on the ball.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management plan, site plan for Cheryl Pigleggi to raise the existing house at 33 Shell Beach Road, map 13, lot 2, as shown on an application dated 11/2/14 and is heard at a public hearing on December 3rd, 2014. This application is approved with following conditions. There are none. This application approved based upon a finding that conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
No,
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Let's discuss anything?
We have to do this.
We have to. I mean, it should be, this is the young lady that had the water up to her floor.
And her water tank stolen.
And her water tanks were stolen. Which is what a ending insult to injury. I don't know what's going on with this neighborhood stealing water tanks.
Any question as to like if the tanks are empty and the water comes up? Concerns about that?
I don't know. I mean, like preparing for a hurricane, do you fill your tanks?
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, they just probably
I think they're
on the ground, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if they're
full of air. Isn't there something like with septic systems where they tie it down somehow to prevent that from rising in the flood?
I think they said that they fill them in the fall.
right. But like, so for example, Sandy and Irene were both in August or October. I mean, I'm just curious if they were empty, if there are any precautions that should be taken to ensure that they don't just pop up. I don't know.
I wonder
Just I
if
throw it out.
She said that they washed away in the storm, and her neighbors found them. So
Those
they must
were
have
above
popped.
ground tanks.
Yeah, those were not buried.
They were under in her cellar actually. They're these big plastic tanks that you can put water in.
People steal.
She was the one who brought it up,
Especially when they
and
float
she
away.
understands that thing. What needs to be done to protect it.
Stop it. Our house could have flooded.
The big ones get lashed, and then
Yeah.
people fill them during the season to make sure that they stay down. But also, ultimately, it's a water tank. It's not some of the other kinds of tanks that can
fuel
go down Main Street literally like a torpedo. And
Down on Main Street?
Yeah.
Well, good, all right, so we're all pretty much heading in the same direction on this side. Do we have a second? Yes, so let's just go to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstaining? It's wonderful for Cheryl. Good luck to her. And Ms. Weissman, you got that one? Give it up.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management site plan for Mara Weissman to demolish a house at 117 Andrews Road, map 12, lot 76B, as shown on an application dated 11/6/2014. The application is approved with the following condition: that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
You add Kevin's condition?
Yep.
Yeah, Kevin's condition.
We add Kevin's
Dated.
condition.
Kevin's condition dated that in his letter of December 2nd, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning
That's great.
officer.
Good job. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, so any other discussion on this? I think Mara's put a lot of engineering into this and looks like a great
Be
plan.
willing to talk about any issues that the community had.
Mm-hmm.
Very willing.
Yeah, so I can't see a single reason why we wouldn't go with this. Ray, what do you think?
Well, I'm just, some of what Vic pointed out, but it does sound like they do have the necessary permits, or he's made representations to the commission that the appropriate type of people who do this demolition work are there, and that the inspections were made, so.
Well, Victor is right. Maybe we make that a condition of the approval. He said he would agree to that.
Yeah, he said they've either already been done, or they would agree to do it.
Right, so why don't we make that a condition of the approval, that there's been a state certified inspection for asbestos and...
I can't talk to you.
Right. I'm trying to draw.
I mean, you can make, You don't, those are not really under the authority of the Planning and Zoning Commission, whether there are certain rules about what kind of things that they have to do.
Yeah.
Unless you make a finding that somehow it's not consistent with, it's going to have a negative coastal impact.
And that's what's, I think, different about this one. If this was in a lot in the middle of North Guilford, that's one thing, but because it's in the review area.
Plus, it's near the clam beds, too.
Right.
But what,
it's in a fairly
what
pitched lot.
exactly are we making?
Well, I think we just
what
want to
is the
make sure that
condition?
there's no leaching of any of the contaminants. There were concerns about lead, asbestos, et cetera. We don't want that to leach into the coastal resource. So in this area, I do think we would have some jurisdiction
Right.
over.
And if people are
controlling
eating
it.
the clams that come out of that water, I think they're depending on us to make sure nothing washes into the water to make their clams poisonous.
What sort of condition, though?
Well, I think you'd just, you'd have to say that it's necessary.
They'd have to provide, certification that all studies have been done before they can remove the house.
And that the contractor would need to have those in place, because they said under the
Yes.
contract that those need to be in place before the work can start.
Yes.
So I would add that as a condition.
Got that?
Might
Okay,
be
so
my opinion.
We don't have a lot of, I think we can just about get authority that touches this, but this is really a building.
I think it's also, it's an expression of, your intent, and we'll do what we can to make sure that those rules are enforced.
Well, like I said, I thought, if you're right, if it's in the middle of North Guilford, where there's no coastal resources, that's one thing, but because this is a CAM site plan review,
And we have to
that
think of the
gives us
plan.
more of the jurisdiction to get into that, because we're supposed to be protecting the resource.
Right. That's our job.
Yeah, so, which, maybe if it was an inland wetland area, you might have something like this, but a typical lot, I would agree that, George, it's a building and a state inspection or whomever, but in this case, I think we do have
Because
the
it
jurisdiction.
rises above because of the clams.
Absolutely.
Call the question.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed, abstentions? Carries unanimously. Okay, turn it over. Oh, man, subdivision, site plan. Special permits we have to receive. Oh, gosh. Carney Kelly, 108 Wilderwood Drive, map 83, lot 15, 66 on R7, special permit, home handicraft industries, commercial kitchen, 270-3038B, receive and set public hearing date. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Well, there's nobody here. Okay.
Okay.
They don't have to be here.
No, we're just setting it.
Just receiving.
This is like commercial kitchens, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Laszlo, Darren Teresa, 64 Quinnipiac Lane, map 64, lot 10, zone R3, bless you. Special permit for single-family residence on a lot less than 10,000 square feet, 273-15, receive and set public hearing date, 1/7/15. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of setting the date? Aye. Okay. We have site plan. Oh, my goodness, this is the big one. This is why Brian's here. NERP, Holding and Acquisitions Company, Tractor Supply Company, 2945 Boston Post Road, map 83, lot 5A, parcel B, zone TS2. Site plan application, 19,097 square foot building and 15,008 square feet outside display area. Receive and set meeting date. Can I get a motion? 1/7/15. Can I get 15?
Second.
It's the first time I saw that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Great, thank you. Any opposed? Abstentions? None. Zoning amendment, subdivision, correspondence. We have before us the 2015 meeting schedule, which I am embarrassed to say I have not looked at, but I don't have much of a life going on anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'll be here for all of them.
I'm concerned about April Fool's Day being one of our meetings.
It would be an appropriate meeting day for us.
It is the first and third Wednesday of every month, right?
And it is the first Wednesday, and so it makes sense.
Since you brought that up, you guys want to just real quickly share thoughts on what I asked about a walk meeting once a month? Any thoughts? George has said he thinks it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. Walter does not think it's a good idea.
Well, I have an opinion. I think that, in the past, where we've gone on walks when
necessary.
When it's necessary.
I mean, it may be more than once a month. We need to do maybe 3 months.
Yeah, I don't think we should limit it, or we should, I don't
Right.
think that we should have a set schedule. It's when, you know,
Right,
I
so-
guess it's your determination if it's, it's your determination on us.
We used to have actually a site walk committee with a chair, and that chair was, the chairman of the commission would ask the chair to schedule a site walk for the property, and then that individual would work with town staff, the property owner, and the members of the commission to schedule the walks. That sort of went away over time because we could never get a volunteer to take on that role. But, you know, I mean, it was always ad hoc, and that seemed to be okay.
But it went away.
But it went away. But
So-
it still can be, as we're receiving applications, where it's determined that it would make sense. I mean, unless you're going to walk every one of them.
I don't think we need to walk every one of them, and I think that, you know, our staff can certainly tell us which ones are marginal.
That's what I would suggest, is that at the time we receive it, we make sure that we can get a site walk in prior to the public hearing.
Right, and so, you know, how will we do that? Because some of them that have come through, in looking back, I kind of wish I had walked some of them. So how do we decide which ones are some of them?
That's a good question.
Well, I think one of the ones that you were mentioning, because I was at the public hearing, I mean, that's a standard building permit process that the town staff does. And they have to make, I think this town staff has to make the decision whether there's a borderline question as to whether this group needs to walk the property. Isn't that the way it works, really?
We've never really done that, where we think you need to walk the property.
Well, I included you on my letter, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, right. No, I
And so I guess what I really want is I want to look in the mirror at the end of the night and say, you know what, I am absolutely certain that we made the right decision. We had all the information. In that case, I can't say that.
Well, the best, I mean, ideally, the way to do it would be when you receive an application like tonight, we actually, and this makes the meetings even more robust than they otherwise are, but we actually talk about it a little bit. So then that would be the time when you would decide if you want to have a site visit?
I mean, here's my suggestion. What Shirley used to do, and I would do most of the time, is prior to the meeting, we'd review the files. And if it looked like there was something in there that necessitated a site walk, I would try to bring it up at the meeting. Okay, and then have the committee say, okay, let's the commission go ahead and take a look at it. So I think if you're going to do that, the only way to really have it is someone needs to be appointed to go through the application, see if there's some gotchas in there. And otherwise, you're right. If you just get the thing to receive it, you're not going to know. Someone has to do the legwork.
George and I talk every day that we're going to have a meeting. We go over what's what and what's going on. So maybe we can be more thorough with each other about what's in front of us. Like, you know, we have a 10,000-foot lot that I'm not really sure where it is.
Sound like Quantified.
Well, and do you want to have a committee that is primarily responsible for site walks, or is it really a committee of the whole, and whoever can make it?
Yes, I think that. I'm going to tell you why. You know, this all came about because we all went to a wetlands walk, and I'm the least qualified of everybody, and it seems here too, but in that case, we were looking at some trees, and I noticed that there were 5 dead trees in the middle of the area, and the rest of the trees were all green. And so I asked Scott Williams, who is a botanist, I think, you know, what he thought, and, you know, that clicked in his head that perhaps it's changing, perhaps it's not really not a wetland anymore. Now it might be changing into a wetland. So it actually was the synergy going on between all of us. And so I don't want to just make it 1 or 2 guys, because frankly, if I'm one of the guys, you know, I don't see things the way everybody else does.
I think, though, you got to be careful. We can't have a quorum or something, George, because then it's a unannounced public.
Well, we would post it as a meeting.
Well, but I'm just saying, isn't there, you can't have the commissioners all there and discussing it. There was a time when we thought we had a ruling that you couldn't have a quorum of the commissioners there discussing the application, because that's a hearing taking place
If
without the public.
If it's a public hearing item, I think there might be some.
Well,
issue
but you're
there.
not going to have anybody in the public join us that feels
Right.
like they want to. So,
Right.
I mean, that was the issue before where you couldn't have,
I'm not sure of that.
you might want to check that out again because that was something that was brought to my attention.
The other, I mean, are you thinking that this would?
The freedom of information, it's a public hearing
So
that hasn't been
does that count
noticed.
towards if it's wetlands?
It would apply to that too, yes.
Right,
It's
so
not-
are we violating all the rules by having the Saturday walk meeting?
So if you notice in the meeting.
The public is allowed to come, they just.
Right.
Well, we have had cameras following us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It has to be noticed.
It has to be noticed, and then you can make a decision on the spot in the field.
And then you do have to be careful with ex parte
Yeah.
conversations because you
But we
need to
wouldn't-
have all the parties there.
But we certainly would not vote in the field.
Oh, no, you wouldn't
no.
vote, but I'm
But
just
even
saying the
deliberations
discussions
would
have
be
to
a
be
problem.
open to the
right,
public.
our
Yeah.
discussion is limited to gathering information about the area and the wetlands and how it interacts
Right,
with
you're not
it.
supposed to discuss the application.
I presume you'd have to involve the applicant, would you? If you're going to go to somebody's house? Or
Well, that's what the committee would do, is they'd have to obviously get permission and time with the owners. A lot of times they'd have to be there to get you in.
Precisely.
And then you'd need to get the members of the commission there. We used to do it Saturday mornings.
Saturday mornings.
But while you were chair, all of the commissioners were invited, and we
But
typically
never, nobody ever. Usually it was one or two if we were lucky.
But we could, I mean, but we were.
You were invited, but
Yeah,
knowing
all
that not
invited.
everybody would show up was never a quorum issue.
Okay, so why
But
don't we
anyways,
try it? Why don't we try it and see how it goes? Because I think that,
You can check with the council.
just keep asking Chuck.
Yeah, I think we can work on it.
Because,
how it goes.
there potentially could be a situation where we go to look at something like this one that I wrote about, and the neighbors might want to be there to sort of sway us.
Yeah, no, they can't do that.
They can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So those, we'd have to have ground rules, and say to them, look, we're here to gather information only.
See, that's why we kept it below quorum, because then you don't have to do that. They don't have to.
But they still can't, start ex parte with or without a
Well-
quorum with the neighbors and so on and so
They
forth.
can try.
Right, I'd like to try it if we could. If it falls apart, if no one shows up, at least we tried. So the next time we talk, let's think about that.
Yeah.
It would just be more responsible of us, probably, you're right.
Right.
As much as we would suffer.
Well, it's not so much that, it's just if it adds value, I think it should be done. If it doesn't, then why?
It's suffering.
why do it?
It's late at night. We're all here having a good time. It's relaxing and enjoyable. Public service. Tom, tell me about these bills.
Do you want to make a motion on the?
Should we make a motion on that? Okay, so what's the motion that's going to be?
Move to approve the schedule as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Tom, help me control myself. Tell me about these bills.
How would I know about these bills?
$191 of town money.
That's why we shouldn't be giving away application fees.
This is,
Waiver fees?
when you,
That's my response.
what a waste of taxpayers' money. I swear.
Well, we're getting nailed by Ken McKenzie saying that the people weren't giving enough time for the public hearing about Sullivan. And this is what the money goes for. It goes for all the notices in the paper. He's clearly out of line because we did send out a public notice in proper time for that meeting.
But we welcome his comments, because we welcome everybody's comments.
I
Well, it
move we
would be
pay the
good if they
bills.
were honest.
Second.
You can't have it until I call it the...
Call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bills are paid. Did we all have an opportunity to review the regular meeting minutes from 11:18?
I'm off on that. I didn't attend the meeting.
I also will be off on that.
I reviewed.
I reviewed them, and they're substantially correct. Do you agree?
Correct.
All right, so can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, it breaks my heart. Can I have a motion to end this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Happy holidays.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.